My mom. Mom, I'm in a meeting.
Let me know when you're ready.
And you.
Okay, we're good. Yeah.
All right.
I love those guys.
I call this meeting of the Vista Unified School District to order at 6:55. Please stand for the flag salute. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready to begin? All right, and I'll start with the roll call. Trustee Kelly. Here. Trustee Morocco. Here. Trustee Vargas.
Present.
Trustee Smithfield. We have our student board members. We have Analia Castillo.
Here.
We have Sophia Jaimes. Brandon Burton. Not here. And then Megan Taft and Emma Ritter aren't here either. Thank you for joining us. And there were no actions taken in closed session. Next on the agenda is for approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda for this evening.
So moved. I second. Moved by trustee Kelly and seconded by trustee Alvarado. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Next on the agenda, we have district announcements. 5A, retirement recognition.
Were there things we had to change on the agenda?
There are, but
That's
that's the
consent.
consolidated. consent.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're ready to go on that. We'll make those adjustments. Later on.
Okay.
All right, thank you, President Alvarado, board members, student board members. Thank you so much for being here. We have a number of recognitions today. This is, I think you're all aware, Certificated Employee Week. And in a couple of weeks, we have Classified Employee Week, and we do them all together. So if I could have Rachel Mistambroso come up. We wanted to recognize all of our retirees first. That's our first celebration. We actually held that celebration earlier today from 4 to 5 p.m. And we had a number of retirees come. It was a wonderful event. I want to thank our board members for coming and supporting them during this really important process in their life, different chapter. But I'll pull up the slide open if you want to just give a quick update to our board on our folks who are retiring. In a moment.
So our favorite month is May. Last year, we recognized our certificated and classified in April, but this is a great month. Everything falls on the same time. So we have our retirees and several proclamations that you will be helping us with tonight.
The retirements?
No, we're good. We're good with the proclamations. I just wanted to put this up there. So as you, I'll just let that cycle
Okay,
through
so-
as we go through our proclamations.
All right, got it. So then, next on the agenda is 5B, student board members and senior recognition. Which trustee has that?
Trustee Vargas.
Perfect. Let me come to the front. Here's me. All right, so this evening we're recognizing our student board members. We have two of them tonight, so if I could have Analia and Sophia come to the front with me. We'll have you standing right here. So these students represent the voice of our 20,000 students. They all represent one of our high schools. And so tonight we're here to recognize their leadership and contributions to this board. As you know, it can be a very intimidating process being on that dais. And so, we have two phenomenal students here that have done that and gone above and beyond. And so our first one, Analia Castillo, graduate of Buena Vista. She plans to attend Maricosta College, study elementary education and musical theater, and hopefully come to work for Vista Unified one day. Our second student is Sophia Jaimes, and Sophia comes from the best high school in the district. Just kidding. They're all the best. But she's a proud, Vista High School soon to be alumni, class of 24. So she plans to attend UC San Diego, major in political science with a concentration in public policy. And so these are the two present, but three of the student board members who are not here today. Brandon Byrne, he's from Major General Murray High School. He has enlisted in the Navy, and in June, he will attend boot camp with the goal of becoming a machinist mate. Let's give him a round of applause. From Houston Vista High School, Megan Taft. She's unable to attend tonight because her lacrosse team banquet is this evening. But with that, she plans to attend Cal State San Marcos, and she will be majoring in biology. Let's give her a round of applause. And last but not least, Emma Ritter from Major General Murray High School. She's not here tonight because she's attending her night school program. She attends Maricosta College to pursue a degree in nursing, specializing in needle intensive care unit. And so with that, let's give her a round of applause as well. And so once again, on behalf of our board, our superintendent, thank you so much for being a voice, for being a part of this process. Whatever life takes you, remember, you have a great list of supporters behind you, but also in front of you. So thank you so much for your dedication to our district.
Right, next is 5C proclamation. 5C proclamation. Teacher and all certificated professional appreciation week. Whereas the education of youth is essential to the future of our community, state, country, and world. And whereas our certificated professionals mold future citizens through guidance and education. And whereas certificated professionals embrace students of widely differing backgrounds. And whereas our certificated professionals are committed to stopping at nothing to remove barriers to high quality education for all of our students. And whereas our country's future depends upon providing quality education to all students. Whereas certificated professionals spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling, coaching students, and performing community service. And whereas our certificated professionals go beyond teaching and serving our students to provide social and emotional learning, mental support, address hunger, and support the whole child. And whereas our community recognizes and supports its certificated professionals in educating the children of Vista Unified School District. Now, therefore, the Vista Unified School District Board of Directors proclaim that the week of May 6th to the 10th, 2024, as Teacher Appreciation Week, and to honor all of our certificated professionals. We observe this week by taking time to recognize and acknowledge the impact of all of our certificated professionals and what they have on our lives. Teachers, nurses, counselors, social workers, psychologists, speech language pathologists, and librarians. Signed this day, the 9th day of May, 2024, Martha Alvarado.
Right.
Thank you. And next is 5D, Proclamation Classified School Employees Week, 2024.
And that's it. How many people are classified employees? Okay, classified school employee week. Whereas classified professionals provide valuable services to the schools and students of the Vista Unified School District. And whereas classified professionals contribute to the establishment and promotion of a positive instructional environment. And whereas classified professionals serve as a vital role in providing for the welfare and safety of Vista Unified School District's students. And whereas classified professionals employed by the Vista Unified School District strive for excellence in all areas relative to the educational community. Therefore, be it resolved that the Vista Unified School District hereby recognizes and wishes to honor the contributions of the classified professionals to quality education in the state of California and in the Vista Unified School District and proclaims the week of May 20th to the 24th, 2024 as classified employee.
Next is 5E, Proclamation Substitute Employee Appreciation Week, 2024.
That was me.
Whereas a strong, effective system of public school education for all children and youth is essential to our democratic system of government. And whereas much of this progress can be attributed to the dedicated employees entrusted with supporting the educational environment so our children can grow to their full potential. And whereas substitute employees play a vital role in maintaining continuity of instruction and a positive learning environment when the employee is away. And whereas it is appropriate that substitute employees be recognized for this dedication and commitment. Now, therefore, the Board of Trustees of Vista Unified School District do hereby proclaim the week of May 6th through 10th, 2024 as Substitute Employee Appreciation Week. Signed today.
And next is 5F, Certificated and Classified Substitute Employee Recognition 2024.
Rachel, I
I'm gonna
believe
go
we have-
down.
I believe we have one here and one's absent.
Yes, right. So I'm gonna go a little bit out of order. Second.
You want to-
You're first. Okay. So I'm presenting substitute recognition and we have one, our unfortunate classified substitute is not here, but I'd like to read about her. Our classified substitute recognition is for Elizabeth Mao. Elizabeth is a retired employee who returned to substitute for classified HR as an instructional assistant. She is reliable and fantastic, according to Karen Burke, the principal at Maryland Elementary, where Elizabeth often works. She works quietly with children, supporting them with a smile and kindness. The students at Maryland absolutely love working with Ms. Mao. Congratulations to Elizabeth Mao, VUSD's classified substitute. Our certificated substitute recognition for 2024. Devin Swarens, I think I said that right, is. And I will read. Devin is a substitute teacher in a brand new classroom for students with moderate to significant disabilities at Lake Elementary. The principal, oh, okay, yeah. The principal, Dr. Davina Stringer, says he is a pleasure to work with and cares about the students in the classroom. Devin is always prepared for IEP meetings and has built a great relationship with students and parents. Devin collaborates with different service providers to ensure that the students' needs are met and refines his instructional practices to meet the academic needs of the students. He is timely in his communication and responses to parents and staff. Congratulations to Devin Swarens, VUSD's certificated substitute. Yep, would you?
Oh, take our hands.
Congratulations.
Well done. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good job, New York.
That was very good.
Thank you so much.
All right, fun part. Next on the agenda is 6, presentation by community members, public comments, community members. Any member of the audience who wishes to hold and speak to an agenda item or at the appropriate time speak to an item not on the agenda should complete a hold card and present it to the board secretary before item 2A or before the meeting begins. In an effort to gain as much public input as possible, individual speakers will be limited to 3 minutes or less. A total of 20 minutes will be held for public comments under item 6A. The remainder of public comments will be continued after completion of the discussion action items if necessary, but it's not necessary. We have 5 speakers, so I'm going to call 3 of you up at a time and or 3 and 2. And if you would be ready to speak, the first speaker is going to be Nicole Wright. The second speaker is Kathy Kirk. The third speaker is Marisol Mayoral. And you may begin, ma'am.
Thank you. Mold in our classrooms has been a known issue for decades. Since long before I joined the district a decade ago, teachers have been concerned about mold in our aging portable classrooms. Portable classrooms have a lifespan of about 10 to 15 years, and our sites are on 35 plus years. Unfortunately, this problem is not specific to my classroom or my site. This problem spans most of the classrooms in the district with varying severity. Likely due to the increased rain the last few years leading to more moisture, my classroom has been making myself and my students very sick this year. We have had endless respiratory issues, asthma diagnoses, and other viruses that show our immune systems are low. Mold was present in the air and water damage was found in the walls. We moved classrooms for 2 months and we were healthy. Moving back after some repairs were done, we were optimistic the problem would be resolved. However, within a few days, I was sick again and I have been sick since. I've also noticed that student health is declining. The solution presented to me is to permanently move classrooms. I have many concerns with this proposition. Who gets stuck in my room knowing how sick I've been? How many students in that class will end up sick? What if the new room has the same issues as this room? All the rooms are the same age and the same materials. With the last $247 million bond, we were promised a new campus, which is why we pushed so hard for it to be passed. Yet here we are, going back and forth with the district for 8 long months. Where did all that money go? How is there none left for our schools that are literally falling apart at the seams? In a district that claims to be transparent, I have seen nothing but through this process. Reports have been withheld, consequences given for speaking up about our concerns over being sick. Let's turn that around. The district has a chance now to do the right thing and show us the report of the work done. The district also has the summer coming up to do some real investigation and bring in a quality mold remediation company to ensure the air we are breathing in our classrooms is safe and healthy. We are not asking for 5-star accommodations. We are asking for a proper mold investigation and remediation to occur in our classrooms to ensure that we are breathing clean air. I ask each of you, would you want your spouse, your children, your friends to be working and learning in these classrooms? If you won't do it for me, then please do it for my students and their developing lungs and bodies. Thank you.
Thank
And I
you.
also would like to thank some parents from my class for showing it tonight as well.
Yeah. I have a clarifying question. What campus do you work at?
I didn't want to put that because it's not specific to just my site. It's district-wide. It's a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Followed by Marisol Mayoral.
Good evening, VUSD Board. I am Kathy Kirk, and I am one of the middle school counselors at Madison Middle School. And tonight, I just want to take a moment to say thank you, and to say thank you for your investment in the lives of our students and their social, emotional, academic growth. And I also just want to take a moment to share the great things that your investment in school counselors, how it's impacting our students. And so this year, it was my second year here. And one thing that I valued was our hatching results that you have provided for the counselors. And in that, we collaboratively created our vision and mission statement. Our mission as the VUSD Comprehensive School Counseling Program is to provide a data-driven, multi-tiered system of support for all students. In collaboration with community allies, school counselors are advocates who promote equity, access, and success within the academic, social, emotional, and college and career domains. There's a little bit more, but there's a lot of words there, and you all will be receiving just the mid-year report. And again, tonight, I just want to celebrate and say thank you. You know, this year you added 9 community counselors, which really has helped bring our caseloads down. And so our largest caseload right now is in one of the elementary schools, which is about 770 students. But on average, school counselors now have a caseload of 332, and we are getting so much closer to the ASCA recommended number of 250. So again, thank you. We appreciate you. And we're just seeing great things being done in the lives of our hardworking school counselors, and we're seeing the impact on our students. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Marisol, followed by Tori Way, followed by Carrie Anderson.
Hi, good evening, board and Dr. Doyle. I'm also a school counselor. Marisol Mayor, school counselor, Rancho Mineral Middle School. And I also would like to take this opportunity to thank you for providing the training through hatching, because it really has helped us improve as a comprehensive school counseling program. with hatching and also the leadership of our counseling coordinator, Whitney DeWeese. So big round of shout out to her. We've also made huge strides in our Vista Unified Board Goal #2, which is improvement in student engagement. All of the counselors in the district have implemented a multi-tiered system of support to increase student connection and belonging. One of the ways this is reflected is in our attendance data district-wide. There's been a decrease in the chronic absenteeism rate by 46.1% from this time last year. And those multi-tier system support include everything from, tier 1 guidance lessons, attendance awareness campaigns, PBIS incentives. Tier 2 would be small counseling groups, SART meetings, check-in, check-outs, and also at the tier 3 level would be like home visits, referrals to district social workers, etc. I would also like to highlight that Vista Unified counselors help students on 3 main domains, that being social, emotional, academic, and college and career readiness, to provide continued support in those 3 domains. Our data shows that district-wide, 60% of our students, 60% of our contacts with students have been focused mostly on their social emotional needs. About 22.7 on academics and 12.2 on college and career readiness. Our counselors are working really hard to support the whole child. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. So again, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Corey Wade, followed by Carrie Anderson.
Hello, board. Thank you for having me back. My name is Corey Way. I'm school counselor at Roosevelt Middle School. I'm here also to thank you so much for investing in school counselors. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the support that we provide. So through the data, we have found that we have met total student contacts this year across schools has been 66,563 student contacts. And the American School Counselors Association recommends that we spend 80% of our time working directly with students and 20% of our time doing more, planning, curriculum building and such. And so with 80% direct student services, we in the district are actually at 92.7. So that shows that we're meeting with students a lot more than even what's recommended. So there's less time for us to do planning, but it's good that we're meeting a lot more directly with students. And then, as my colleague said, we focus on all 3 tiers. So where social workers, school psychologists focus on mainly the students that need the most support. We work with tier 1, which is all students, tier 2, as well as tier 3. And so we're recognizing that, tier 1, all students we work with, and then tier 2 is about 18.6% of our population. And then our tier 3 is 6.4%. And so I think that it's important to see that we're offering like universal support as well as individualized support. And then talking a little bit about data, we utilize monthly grade level meetings. We have annual calendars that we use. We do mid-year reports that we share with the board. And then, our main goal is to empower students and then transform their futures. So again, we just want to thank you so much for your investment, and we hope that we can work more collaboratively in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next is Carrie Anderson.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Anderson. I'm a teacher in the district. I'm also a parent of students in the district. I'm a proud alumni of the district. I am a happy community member, and being involved in our school system and our community, I value the things that we bring to the table and we offer our students. But one of the things that we haven't been happy with is that sometimes we don't feel like our time is as valued when we want to be engaged with our school board or even our city council. And it's really referring to the closed session. So tonight's board meeting got called to order at 6:56. The schedule says 6 o'clock, and as you're aware, we have a community awareness and participation assignment at RBV, Kathy, encouraging our students to become more engaged community members. And we want them to feel valued as community members. We want them to be able to be engaged with what's going on. But if it's not starting on time and we expect them to be here for an hour and a half, and the meeting doesn't start till that hour's up, and then they're excused, there's no way for them to engage with whatever the topics are that evening, or to become aware of the information that we're hoping they'll become aware of. I know I'm solution oriented, so I know surrounding districts, they'll often have a cutoff time, so they'll start, say, closed sessions 5 to 6, they say, okay, 6 o'clock, we'll adjourn closed session, and then we'll bring it back again after the meeting's over. Or they'll move the start time later, they'll start at 7 o'clock so that they know they can end closed session and it stops at 7 o'clock no matter what, because one of the things we talk about in Vista is valuing our employees and valuing our schools, and right, it's up there, our values. And so I think part of that is valuing our time as well. And that includes our students. And so I wasn't planning on speaking, but I've kind of seen this all year. And when we talk about it in class, it's one of the things the students have talked about is they've been released before they kind of heard anything. And so just to support our helping them become better community members, it would help us as well to, value their time. And so just, I wanted to put that out there and ask for you to consider that and maybe think about either cutting it off and moving it to the end, or extending that time so that we start on time. And then one thing not about that, I want to send a huge shout out to Monte Vista. My boys have been there for 9 years now, off and on, between my older son and my younger sons. We're graduating from Monte Vista, so to speak, and it's been fantastic. And, we talk about all the highs and lows of schools and stuff. That school is stellar, and I'm really proud of my boys having gone through there. And then my oldest started RBB this year and has had a fantastic year. So, we're doing good things. We're seeing good things. So just something to make it better, right? All right, thank you.
Next on the agenda is 7A, reports from school-related organizations. And before that, students who are here to observe, you may be excused to get credit. Go get some rest.
And they'll sign right out there. We have teachers that will sign.
Unless you want to stay. You may stay if you'd like. Okay. Thank you. Miss Carrie Avila, would you please come up? Good evening. You'll have 5 minutes, Miss Avila. Thank you.
Excellent. Good evening, Board of Education, student board members, Dr. Doyle, cabinet, and community. Bye, kids. VTA is thrilled that we have reached a tentative agreement with VUSD. Our members are voting right now and to ratify the 4.5% salary increase and the $2,000 additional to benefits, the benefit caps over the next 2 years. We are proud to be one of the first districts to offer paternity leave. We are glad that we have 4 weeks of maternity leave, which positively affects the retirement of our members, our teachers that give birth. Happy that Collaboration Mondays are coming back, and these are just a few, and super happy about TK3 prep going up to an hour and a half an hour. And these are just some of the few great things of this TA. I just wanted to, my report's gonna be pretty short. I think my members, my counselors, my teachers came out and they said some very important things about the mold. I hope you listen to that. counselors are doing a great job, and then also the timeliness of coming out of closed session would be positive for our community. But I wanted to put something on your radar that I have heard. So last board meeting, parents came out and they were talking about the violence that cell phones and social media had created on their campus. And I started reflecting stories that I've heard from my members about how social media and cell phones have affected them. There have been cases that students have created false profiles using members' pictures and saying things negative that could hurt that teacher. There has been instances where students have taken pictures of teachers bending over as they're helping students and then posting that online or sharing it around campuses. There has also been cases of Instagram sites where pictures of teachers were posted, and then there were fake stories about them and negative allegations. So it seems like in the future, looking at the role of cell phones and social media and how they play on the campuses and how they make our teachers and our students safer is something that hopefully you'll be addressing in the future. And with that, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Avila. Next is 7B, California School Employees Association.
Good evening, board members, superintendent, cabinet members, student board members, and CSEA brothers, sisters, and siblings of Vista Unified 389. Each May, California salutes the important contributions of classified school employees during Classified School Employee Week, CSEW, which this year is from May 19th through the 25th. And this year's theme is Empowering Generations. In the spirit of celebrating classified employees, we want to conclude our ongoing theme of highlighting job classifications for families by acknowledging 4 more job classifications. And then we want to recognize 2 of our very own members specifically. So 1, a community liaison is responsible for managing the communication between the school, district, and community members, whether that be parents, families, counselors, teachers, and staff. They provide workshops for parents and families, bring in volunteer participation, address families' concerns and needs, builds relationships with outside community partners, create long-lasting and trusting relationships with our families. Ultimately, they empower parents, families to be active participants in their children's education. In school settings, interpreters and translators play crucial roles in ensuring effective communication between individuals who speak different languages. Interpreters assist in real time in translation during meetings like this one, parent-teacher conferences, disciplinary meetings, IEP meetings, workshops, events, among others. Translators translate various written materials such as handouts, flyers, school board policies, district level forums, and educational resources. They ensure that non-native speakers have access to essential information in their preferred language, promoting inclusivity and equal access to education. Licensed vocational nurses provide specialized care and support for students in chronic health conditions or disabilities, helping them manage their health effectively while attending school. They empower students to make informed decisions about their health and well-being, promoting health behaviors and lifestyles. Having licensed vocational nurses on site increases access to healthcare services for students, ensuring that their medical needs are addressed promptly and effectively during school hours. Athletic trainers are the first responders to a major physical and psychological injury. They specialize in preventing, diagnosing, and treating muscle and bone injuries and illnesses. They often become the gatekeeper of all medical forms used in athletic program and work with the school nurse to ensure that academic or physical education accommodations are being followed correctly. They play a vital role in promoting the health, safety, and performance of student athletes. To wrap up this topic, so CSEA asked the school board members to allocate funds for professional development in the LCAP. And this is to support all these job classifications and families that we've highlighted in the last 3 board meetings. And then now I do want to recognize 2 employees specifically. The CSEA San Diego field office recognizes classified employees in San Diego and Imperial counties, and these are CSEA chapters in school districts. And so two of our own members, Vista Unified employees, were recognized for these incredible awards, and this is like both counties. And so the first one is the Beth Saldaña Under Her Wings Award. This award recognizes a member who embodies the characteristics of mentorship and leadership. This year's recipient is Robert Johnson. I know Robert is a very familiar face, and this just shows that he's very active in Vista Unified's community, advocating for fellow co-workers, for students, everybody. And not only that, but it mentors everyone, co-workers, even our members in CSCA, is sharing that knowledge. We always want to have a colleague like Robert. Robert has been a VUSD employee for 37 years. He began his career in Vista Unified as a custodian, then athletic field tech, grounds maintenance worker, to now his current role as lead grounds maintenance worker. So Robert, it's an honor to be a colleague. The next award I want to recognize is the Unsung Hero Award, which is to recognize a member of a chapter that has done extraordinary work behind the scenes. And this member is Robert Vicent. He is the recipient of this award. He's been a Vista Unified employee for over 9 years and has worked as a plumber. And he currently serves as a union steward. So he does representations for our members. And he likes to joke that when he goes to schools, he gets the red carpet treatment because they know he's there to fix their toilets. And then lastly, I do want to, so he's not here, but I do want to recognize those two important awards. And then lastly, I do want to extend an invitation to our school board members. We will be celebrating our classified professionals on May 23rd from 3 to 5 p.m. at Vista Innovation Center. We'll be sending you an email with those details, but that's it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, next on the agenda. Next on the agenda is 7C, the District English Learner Advisory Committee, DLAC. Do you have anyone from DLAC here tonight? All right, not tonight. All right, next on the agenda is 8 board member report outs, starting with trustee Smithfield.
Oh, dear. I don't know, we didn't do this last month. Probably. Bond, buildings, construction, there's my friend Grace. We owe all the success to, so we'll finish most of our projects. The kids are in, they're thrilled, they're beautiful, try to go see them. We had the ribbon cutting at VMMS. So again, beautiful job. The kids helped design the areas. We were able to honor them. And then the biggest, most exciting is we're going to start tearing Bovier apart. So we can build something. So like what you got, a 5-star place for it's a start. But other than that, I don't think anything else to report. Oh, no, I did want to mention one thing. I did mention last month about the HOSA, the project Lead the Way at Mission Vista, and since then they were notified that 4 of their students qualified for the national competition in Texas. And this is like, if you talk, I don't know. If I talk to these students, I'm like, what world do they live in? Because I don't understand what they're doing in this medical world and stuff. So it's very cool to recognize. Sometimes we forget about that group. So.
Thank you, trustee Vargas.
Yeah, it's been a busy month. Thank you to BAPA and their families for inviting me. There was the Dr. Seuss theater performance. So to the teachers, wonderful performance and such talent that we have at such young age. So looking forward to seeing their growth. They also had a Dia de los Niños event with celebrating the culture and the work that kids bring to our community. Following that, Vista High School, we had the ROTC awards tonight. So congratulations to our young scholars there. We had a phenomenal speech from one of the colonels, but also an opportunity for them to recognize and celebrate their new building and give tours to some of the staff that were visiting on site. Just today, we celebrated the last day at Panther Cafe with Chef Kim, who will be missed. She's retiring, but I know that she's looking forward to her day is up with her husband. And I'm confident we'll have somebody to try and fill 1/4 of her shoes. I know it's a big job to fill, but definitely something that our students benefit. I also attended the Vista Magnet Middle School ribbon cutting ceremony. Once again, the investments of our taxpayers into the community. There's a lot of projects with over $1 billion in project needs. Measure L only got to 240, so I know there's more conversations pending on that. Following that, I had a meeting with Dr. Mosher with the Climate Action Committee, with the parents, teachers, classified different stakeholders on what we can do to be more environmental friendly. And so we'll have some plans. There's a report back coming back later this year to bring to the board and with what we can do once again within our school district. Two more things. Attended Vista High School Awards Night to the class of 2024, whether it's Vista High School, Rancho Buena Vista, or any of our high schools here at Vista. We're looking forward to the celebrations. They're happening all month long, and with ending with the graduation. So I know many of us are going to be present with those. So we look forward to celebrating with our families. And last but not least, attended Rising Star Breakfast with the Chamber of Commerce. They have their big celebration this Friday. So to my colleagues, if you are available tomorrow, is it tomorrow? Tomorrow. My goodness, it's Friday tomorrow. If you're available tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., big breakfast to celebrate all of the rising stars at Vista Vista Unified. But with, it's a great time to celebrate our students, the amazing work that our teachers, our staff have done throughout the year, and with, wrapping up the school year.
Thank you. Trustee Morocco?
I have been having technical difficulties with my calendar, so much of my invitations. So I didn't do a whole lot, but at the same, so this is good for the sake of time. I have nothing to report.
Trustee Kelly?
Like Trustee Vargas, I had the opportunity to go to Seussical at Vista Academy, and it was delightful. They have an event tomorrow evening that's open to the public, the Dancing Afuera, which is held at 6:30 at their campus. And it will present multicultural dances and give the community an opportunity to see students perform and participate. I participated in the bike night, the last community bike night that we held. And that capped off a whole year of our teacher on special assignment, making sure that there were bike safety assemblies being held at each and every elementary school. And alongside of that, we've implemented some safety protocols for students in their secondary schools who wish to ride electric bikes or any kind of bike to school. But particularly, we're aware of the safety issues around electric bicycles, and we need the knowledge that we need to educate kids on how to ride safely. So hats off to Teresa McSpadden for her work on that, and it's been a pleasure to be involved with it. Through my day job in marketing and public relations, we have an inclusive PE program, delivery of bikes, coming from a nonprofit organization called All Kids Bike to Madison Middle School, which we're pretty excited about. And I attended 2 committee meetings since our last meeting. One was with Susan Stuber and our Visual and Performing Arts Committee. This was the year we stood up the committee in response to Prop 28 funding and getting community involvement about building a more robust and cohesive arts program, or I should say, adding to our our already pretty robust arts program in the district. I also was at the Superintendent's Council for Equity and Anti-Racism. And another feel-good event was attending the check reveal for Vista's Big Give at Roosevelt Middle School, which I'll pass over to President Alvarado because she was there with me.
That was a great event. It's wonderful to see how generous our students and our community are. And when they fundraise for this situation for these 2 young ladies from our community. I was very busy as well. We didn't really have a chance to talk about this at the last meeting, but last month I had met with the building trades. We're discussing our pre-apprenticeship program, which is ready to kick off at the adult school in July, the first week or second week of July. I believe it's the July 8th.
Yep.
During that meeting, we also discussed a field trip, if you will, for our counselors. So that's been scheduled. Many will be going down to take a tour of 3 of the pre-apprenticeship sites. 25 will be going. That's exciting because they'll know what kinds of tools the kids need figuratively and literally to be prepared for those opportunities. I attended the Student of the Year Award, Student of the Year Awards at Vista High School. That was always, it's always heartwarming to see so many wonderful students and what they do for the community, how much they mean to their teachers who nominate them. I had the pleasure of attending the Distinguished School Awards for Vista Magnet Middle School up in Anaheim last Friday. And they also recognized Casita for being a Blue Ribbon School Award. So it was a beautiful event with schools all across the state of California. Really made me feel proud of the work that's being done across the district and at these schools to close those opportunity gaps that we know we have to close. And then, of course, the Vista Magnet Middle School ribbon cutting to see those beautiful facilities, you know, come to fruition after a year and a half of, or it seems like a lot of technical difficulties over there, but just to see it come to an end and to see the smiles on the students and the family, it was just an amazing event. So I'm sure I did more, but I don't remember. So I'll just stop there. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is 9A, staff committee reports to the board, student board member report, Rancho Buena Vista High School with Dr. Villarreal and our student board member,
Ms. Castillo, come forward.
Ms. Analia Castillo.
Good evening. Evening, President Alvarado, Superintendent Doyle, trustees, student trustees, buenas noches, community. I am Dr. Samuel Villarreal. I'm here to speak to La Señorita Castillo. She's a competitor and she's also a dreamer. And she's a thinker. You agree with that?
Yeah.
Good. She's also a decision maker. As a little Longhorn, the dream was to play softball in high school and maybe in college. She traveled the western states and dedicated much time to hot and cold days, with many tournaments and many reps hitting and throwing. Then the thinker, through her time in middle school and entering high school, began to spark a strong interest in theater. She found that her already ingrained free spirit matched what the RBV drama department had to offer. Then the decision maker kicked in and off she went, from battling fast pitches to now battling how to remember her lines and making sure her voice was ready to belt out a song in front of the Vista community. Oh, and do it while dancing. These characteristics of being a dreamer, thinker, and decision maker will make her a wonderful teacher of the arts. And more importantly, her independence teaches us all that she se puede. As a fellow Latina activist, Dolores Huerta introduced long ago, that sí se puede. Analia Castillo.
Good evening, board members, student board members, and audience members. My name is Analia Castillo, and I am here today representing the wonderful community of Rancho Buena Vista High School. I am excited to share my experiences and views tonight about all the amazing things happening at RBV, including academics, arts, and athletics. So our academics, we have a very strong AP, IB, and honors program at RBV. Currently, I'm enrolled in AP Government, IB Drama, and IB Dance. There are a lot of students enrolled who stay in the honors level program for all 4 years, like me, because of all the hard work and commitment of the teachers to improve our knowledge on different subjects. I do know that some students have won prestigious awards, including recognition from College Board, IB, and numerous scholarships. Right now is a very stressful time, though, because we are in the middle of AP IB testing, and students are working really hard to be prepared for their exams. As a senior, my friends and I have also been looking at our post-high school plans. Counselors and our college and career tech are very helpful in guiding us to our next steps. People who are enrolled for the fall at Miracosta or Palomar have already been meeting with their guidance counselors and working on their future plans. If students aren't looking at a 2-year or 4-year college, we now have a trade building on campus. This past year, our CTE construction and welding building was finished up and now opens more doors for opportunities outside of the classroom experience. They also get to participate in some cool competitions where they build sheds and compete against other trade classes. Now for the arts, which is my favorite part, as Dr. V mentioned. So our fall production, Yerma, was an absolute stellar show. We ranked third in all of Area 4 of San Diego for that production. The judges in Area 4 awarded 2 Director's Choice Awards and 4 Adjudicator Awards for the California Educational Theater Awards, or CETA. And I am very proud to say that I won one of the Adjudicator Awards. Following the Fall Award ceremonies, we took individual pieces to the California Thespian Festival. 8 RBB drama thespians, including myself, ranked superior and will move on to the international level at the International Thespian Festival in Indiana this summer, which is super exciting. And finally, we won Southern Playfest with Yellow Bow and also won at the state level. Arts is more than just drama, though. We have an amazing dance department, which I am also in, ballet folklorico, color guard, mariachi, and our hands-on art classes. Students in the classes have won numerous awards over the course of the year. I also need to shout out our band because they earned the San Diego County Band of the Year Award, and their band director, Mr. Wyweather, won the Golden Apple Award for our district. My first 3 years at RBB, I was involved in sports as well as theater, where my path took me to the stage. I would still like to recognize my fellow scholar athletes. Did you know that the following sports teams were league champions this year? Girls volleyball, girls soccer, boys basketball, boys wrestling, and our boys tennis. And how about our CIF teams in girls soccer and our amazing girls wrestling champion, Kayla Edwards? On this campus, we also offered the Longhorn Leadership Academy to help encourage leadership within our different programs on campus, including athletics. I've heard a little bit about this program from my friends, and from what they told me, it's amazing in helping them become leaders on and off the field. And finally, I would like to recognize how our school is working in the community and others to build more relationships and experience for us as students. We have used social media to tell our story from what is happening on our campus, like our prom this past weekend, which was super awesome, to having our alumni give us advice, including teachers like Mr. Scott, who was an alumni for many years. He helps within the drama department and helps us give a community outside window, which is super cool. I've also seen our social media, and we've done lots of things like the 2nd annual resource fair and the 420 remix to encourage young people to not be involved in drugs or alcohol. We also have student groups performing for the community in lots of different ways, such as events like the Vista Christmas Parade, Festival of the Arts, Nights Under the Stars, and many more throughout the San Diego community. As I conclude my reflections on our amazing school, I am moving on from RBB and have enjoyed my time at VUSD. I attended Grease Hill Elementary School and Vista Magnet Middle School, and now I'm excited for our last month together from grad night to graduation. I plan on studying at Miracosta for elementary education and musical theater. Over my many years in Vista Unified, the teachers have made a huge impact on me, and that to the point where it's made me want to make an impact on children in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, 9B, Child Nutrition Services Annual Report is next on the agenda.
President Alvarado, if I could ask, would it be possible that maybe instead of going through these presentation slide decks, if we would, because I mean, I come prepared to these meetings, I've read a lot. And if we could just jump to questions for the sake of time.
Well, some of this is required by federal guidelines. This is one of them, correct?
We have to do the update by July
Okay,
1st.
it's a requirement. Yeah.
Good evening, board. Tonight we will be presenting an annual update for CNS. I'm going to turn it over now to our amazing director, Carly DeSung, and she's going to go through the presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and student members, and Dr. Doyle. Thank you for having me. I will make this quick. So to start us off, I wanted to look at our year-to-date comparison, looking at the first 155 days of the school year versus what we had seen last year. With the implementation of California Universal Free Meals compared to pre-pandemic, California on average saw about a 3 to 4% meal increase. We saw about a 2.6% increase from our 21-22 to our 22-23 school year. So that will take me to this slide up here. Lines 5, 9, and 13 are the ones that I like to focus on most, as we are a declining enrollment district. Those lines show us the percent of students that we served last year versus this year. So as you can see, our numbers have stayed relatively similar to last year. Breakfast last year, we're at 33.4%. This year, we're at 33%. Our lunch has remained the same at serving 55% of our students at Vista Unified. And then for supper, last year we were at 6.8%. This year we're at 7%. And that does not include our supper vended meals. So we serve more students for supper within that as well. To dive into this a little bit further, since we do have some decreases in our meals, I kind of wanted to show what that looks like on average per day and then average by school site as well. So looking at average per day, we are really only down 181 breakfasts per day and 204 lunches per day. And when you drill that down by all of our school sites, it's really only just a -6 and -7 meals when you look at an individual school. So overall, we're holding very steady with our department, only down 0.2 or 0.2% over last year. Some staffing updates. At the beginning of this year, we were really excited to increase the hours of 9 of our school site positions. Increasing these hours allows us to focus on more scratch-based meals, making those meals in our kitchens instead of buying prepackaged meals. So super thankful that we were able to increase those hours. Additionally, we have a lot of new employees or employees that were promoted within our district for our CNS office. You can see them on the screen there. So this has been a year of transition, onboarding employees, kind of getting comfortable in our roles, but we're really excited about who we have on our team right now. In addition to that, we also have a new position, which is our accounting assistant. We're very excited for this one as well. Our accountant and our accounting assistant are now able to deep dive into more profit and loss for our department, but then also our school sites individually. They'll be able to look into more KPI or key indicator performance reports to help us better understand our financial situation and then guide us in our spending plans as we go down the line. Currently, we have about 19 open positions. Sorry, last slide. 19 open positions within our department, which is about a 13% vacancy rate. That has gotten better throughout the school year. However, we are still struggling to fill some of those positions. And what that means for us is we are sending employees from the central kitchen out to school sites to fill in there. And we also end up pulling our office staff to go fill school sites so we don't have to close down lines, but that would be one of those consequences. I just wanted to highlight some of our 23-24 focuses. So this year, we really wanted to focus on increasing a sense of community throughout our department. With our department, we're spread all throughout of our school sites. So when we have time to come together, we really wanted to work on building that teamwork. We are able to do that with the help of the restorative justice team. They joined us for one of the professional development days. And then we were also held our CHOP challenge over the summer, which was super fun at our August professional development day there. SB 1383 was another one of our focuses. This is the California Short-Lived Climate Pollution Reduction Strategy. This is when we brought in our organic waste containers in the back of our kitchen. So any organic waste goes into those containers. Additionally, we have share tables at our elementary sites, and then we've partnered with several local nonprofit organizations. So any food that we have left over in our school kitchens at the end of the day, we're able to freeze those meals and then go ahead and donate those to those organizations to disperse throughout the community. The next focus was student outreach. So we have a student advisory group at both Rancho Minerva Middle School and Alta Vista High School. We've been able to conduct taste tests with them and get menu feedback from them as well. We're continuing our work with farmers markets. At the end of this month, we would have completed at farmers markets at all 15 of our elementary school sites. And then we're also continuing our central kitchen tours. So Maryland Elementary School, we had their 3rd graders walk down, and then we had their 1st graders come and take a tour. The 1st graders were actually this week, and they had a lot of fun at our central kitchen. Briefly, our infrastructure improvements. These are 2 of my favorites. We were able to get a new pizza oven at the central kitchen. And then in addition with that, we did purchase new pizza transportation carts to help hold the temperature of the pizza longer to provide a better quality to our students. And then last on this slide, of course, we're always focusing on our farm to school produce. So year to date, as of March, you can see the number of local pounds, local meaning within 75 miles of our school district. So those, I like to say, are more hyper local. And then the other number is based on our number of pounds for California for this year as well. Some challenges in our department, like I talked about, was the staffing shortages. I know we're continuously working on that. Another one is with our distribution. So what we're seeing from our vendors is we're either having canceled orders by our vendors. So we place our order, the truck shows up, our product's not on that truck, causing us to rearrange our menu a little bit. Another one is just the product's not available from vendors, so we have to make that decision to change products a little bit in advance. And then the new one that we're starting to see more and more often is changes in lead time. So a product might be available with a 5-day delivery time, and now we're seeing that be changed to a 30+ day delivery time. And then, as everybody knows, food costs continue to rise. So going in to this year, we did have to enroll or get on what's called a spending plan. So school nutrition programs can only have 6 months of operating expenses in reserves. So if you have more than that, the CDE requires you to enter into a spending plan. Our current spending plan that we entered into the beginning of this year with CDE was a plan of $3.2 million, and we have to have that money spent by 2028. So on the screen, you see your purchases and our projects that we're working on, the fiscal impact and the estimated timeline. So all of those items are in the works. So we're confident we will be able to spend that money down and be in compliance with CDE. If for whatever reason, construction delays happen, other delivery delays happen, we can submit an extension to the CDE as well. So my favorite part is talking about school nutrition. So based on the 2020 dietary guidelines for Americans, the USDA did approve their final rule for updates for the child nutrition care programs and their nutrition regulations. So these were actually just approved at the end of April. So relatively new for us, and most of them will not be implemented until 25-26 or after that school year. So the first one, which is going to have the biggest change to our program, is sugar limits. So starting 25-26, we don't have to have a limit to grain-based desserts. That was actually could be removed. That was part of the proposal, but that was not passed. What that limit is going to be is there's going to be sugar limits on added sugars to cereals, added sugars to yogurts, and added sugars to flavored milk. Some of those we are already meeting. We provide meals to our after-school at-risk program, which follows the CACFP, which is Child and Adult Care Food Program regulations, and they already have those sugar regulations in place. So we're already meeting the cereal limits, the yogurt limits, and then actually our flavored milk is already meeting that sugar limit as well. So we're a little bit ahead of the game on that one. For year 27-28. We will be limiting our added sugars to an average of less than 10% of calories for both school lunch and school breakfast. So that one is going to be the biggest impact. Luckily, we have several years to work with manufacturers for them to redevelop some of their items, and then also for us to reevaluate our recipes. Milk, the standards are staying the same, except for that new added sugar limit, which we are already meeting.
Question.
Yes.
So I've been attending schools for a really long time in this unified school district, and I've had a lot of health issues, so I'd have to go vegan or vegetarian. And this is kind of on the topic of, I see that you guys are really worried about like sugar and things like that. But I have myself and a lot of friends who can't eat school lunch, but also can't afford to make their own. And due to that, they're just not able to eat lunch because there's no options for them.
Okay.
So like they can't eat anything. So that's like a common thing I've seen, not just in our school, but in other schools where they can't eat anything because there's no options for them.
Okay, I appreciate that feedback. So one thing I will say to that is we do have medical waivers in place. So if somebody fills out a medical waiver by their health professional, they can turn that in, and we're able to make meal accommodations and kind of create a special diet plan and special menu for those students. But that's one reason we're also working with the student groups to get more of that feedback to fine tune our menus to better fit the student population. Thank you. Yes.
On the sugars,
Yes.
I'm assuming that's regular, is that all sugars, even like, fructose type or like, agave? I'm thinking like
Yes,
agave.
exactly. So the webinar that I was on today, they actually clarified that. So anything that's added sugar, so fruit wouldn't be included. However, if you're taking agave, you're taking honey and you're adding that to it, that does count as an added sugar.
Okay.
Yes. Great question. So then for sodium, we have already experienced decreases in sodium. There was another target limit that we had to achieve at the beginning of this school year. And then the next benchmark that we're going to have to achieve is July 1st, 2027. That is essentially reducing our breakfast sodium limit by another 10% and reducing the lunch sodium limit by another 15% by what we are at for this year. So that's going to be another impact. The USDA is going to be doing a study on the relationship between the sodium reduction and student participation in school meals. Next is the meat or meat alternatives, better known as proteins. So this one is more of a flexibility. It's not a regulation update. So this is actually really going to help us be able to meet that sugar limit. So with breakfast, proteins can now be served in the place of a grain component. Currently, we do have to offer at least one grain component for breakfast. So for example, if we do an egg scramble, we have to offer it with some type of grain. Grains tend to be like your muffins, something that has more of that added sugar. Starting next year, we can go ahead and just offer a larger portion size of the scrambled eggs or of that protein requirement. So that will help with that sugar reduction. In addition, for nuts and seeds, they can now count as the entire protein component instead of just half. And then last but not least, at the top, it says proposed updates. This is a final update. So with whole grains, they are maintaining the current limit of 80% of grains offered have to be whole grain rich. They did write the definition, which I have in the bullet point there. That was one of the updates. Whole grain rich just means the item has to contain 50% or more of grains from a whole grain. The remaining of that product can be refined grains. We already offer 100% whole grain rich items in our district, so we'll continue on that track. So there'll be no new changes for our department. And last but not least, I know it's almost the end of the school year, but I did want to highlight our spring menu and some of the cool items we have on there. As always, we have our homemade wave press cafe pizza. We get this dough from a local bakery, Sadie Rose. It's just 2 miles away from our central kitchen. We pick that dough up fresh every day. We make our own pizza sauce as well. The chicken fried rice is a recipe that we make from scratch at each of our individual kitchen sites as well. And then last but not least, for our fish tacos, we started making elote street corn, and then we also make a fish taco sauce to go on top of that as well. And then we also have all of our salad bar toppings that the students are able to enjoy too. So thank you for your time and open for feedback or any questions that you guys may have.
Trustee Vargas, questions?
Yeah, can you speak about, buying local produce from our local ranchers and farmers?
Definitely. So we have a handful of local farmers, and what's really fun with them is we're able to fine tune what are they offering, what's the seasonality of those items, and then work with them directly. It also is just coming directly from the farm, so it's fresher to the students. One of the biggest changes is we have to get a little bit out of that mindset of all of the fruits look perfect because they are local farmers. We are getting all of these different types of fruits and vegetables. But we have about 6 to 7 different local farmers. Some are hydroponic farms, Valley Center, Fallbrook, Encinitas. Those are kind of our local farmers.
Yeah, I guess my recommendation on that is that if we could increase that or like seeing if we can do much more, because I know that it's always better to shop local than, getting produce from down in Mexico or from the East Coast, and then you have to take into account the footprint of, driving those produce over here, but also, on another area, supporting our local business here in San Diego.
Yes, thank you.
That's it.
Trustee Morocco?
Lots of questions. Okay, so I'm kind of concerned about the availability of food, including food shortages. Is that what is causing that lack of availability of
It's
food?
kind of
The regulations, or is it like food shortages? So
we're still seeing supply chain trying to get back on track. There are sometimes manufacturers have glitches in their manufacturing plant that they're not able to get the product. What our team is currently doing to kind of try to prevent that is we have weekly meetings to look over what our inventories are, what is our average case use per week, so we can make sure we're ordering far enough in advance. So we are working closely with our purchaser on that as well. And then also having backup plans. So if this chicken tender is out of stock, what's our next chicken tender? So try to mitigate that as much as possible for students aren't seeing those menu changes as much. So just working ahead of the game. It is getting better. Now we're just kind of seeing those longer lead times. So forecasting is a big thing we're focusing on our department to make sure we're able to place those orders far enough in advance.
and I have a second question about the staffing shortage.
Yes.
What do you need? What is causing that, and what do you need to mitigate that?
what we're kind of seeing now from feedback from employees, it's the 3.8 hour positions or the shorter hour positions that used to be a really big trend when the parent was coming in and just working when their students are in school. Now we're seeing the shift where people want longer hour positions. So we'll be looking at that next year, kind of seeing if we can move more towards the scratch meals and if that warrants increasing hours. What does that look like at some of those sites to help fill those positions? Okay, thank you.
Trustee Kelly?
Fixing your cord.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're like, okay, I can skip you, go to the student board members first.
That would be great.
Okay,
Do I get a chance?
sure, you get a chance.
I have a question. Okay, so for the follow-up to, Cipriano's. Is there, okay, so we used to do farm to table and that stuff, and then we had to stop doing bids with some people because the bids came in, right? So aren't there some guidelines around, like, we just can't go to this farmer and say, we want your produce and this farmer, so it's kind of a little bit beyond us in some way?
Yeah, we are working with local farmers. There are a lot of more local farmers being willing to enroll in more in that formal bid process, if you will. I've been going to some of the farm to school meetings that we've been having with local farmers, and they're getting more on board. They're understanding a little bit more about that formal bid process and kind of the struggle that school districts are in. If we want to buy from them a lot, we're going to hit that micro purchase level. And so we're going to be out of compliance. So a lot more farmers are opting to do the formal purchase. So we're just reaching out to them, letting them know kind of what we need from them and then asking them us to be able to be on our formal bids.
Do you remember when we first came to us, Dr. Doyle bought me cheap because of all my concerns about what we were feeding our children? We're getting there. Yes, we still have a little bit more to do, but thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi. Well, this is just what I've observed from like, thank you so much. I was not. So like my whole time here, like I'm just gonna be so honest with you, like not even in high school, but just like in general. Everyone is terrified to eat school food.
I know.
Because it like, sorry, it doesn't look as appealing as it does like on the pictures. Like you come to school and you see the picture and you're like, oh wow, that looks delicious. And then you get there and it's like, whoa, that thing looks like it's been sitting there for 5 hours. But I also noticed that since I've been here, it's been the same food. And I know we say we change the menus every couple years, but it's literally been the same thing since I've been in 3rd grade. And I think that's also why people don't want to eat it. They got trust issues. Like my girl found like hair in her food one time and she's like scared to eat it, or like the cheese looks like plastic, so kids are like afraid because it doesn't look appealing. And if they have trust issues with the fact that it's been the same for the past couple of years, like I know a lot of kids won't eat it. So maybe if we like changed up the menu and made it look a little bit cuter, then maybe more people would eat it.
Yeah, no, those are great points. And to that too, is gaining that trust back through taste tests, right? So we're wanting to get into some of the high schools and all of the schools, quite frankly, and doing taste tests with some of those new menu items that we're having, or working with the cooking clubs or working with cooking classes and incorporating what they're wanting and what their recipes are, and then holding little committees with them as well. So that is, I completely understand what you're saying, and that's the direction that we're wanting to work on as well. Another thing I will say about the food sitting is bell times, right? So when we have 30 minutes to serve 700 students, it is hard to make sure that visual appeal is, but that is also something that we're working with training with our staff. We're having display plates. So we're putting out display plates. This is what your tray should look like. This is what your entrees when you're serving to the students. This is what we want them to look like. So thank you for those comments. I definitely agree with them.
I'm just happy there's vegetarian options. When I became vegan, it was really hard to find things to eat. Especially things that were more rich and not like, here's a salad, have a good time, you know, but yeah, so I appreciate that. That was my only.
Like it's the opposite of high school. Yeah, I have a lot, or like, so like obviously nowadays, like the whole thing is to like try random trends and random diets and stuff. And like I went, what did I go? I went vegan. Yeah, I went, sorry.
I went vegan for like religious reasons for like 2 months and I was lost at school. I could not eat absolutely anything. And I also was having a hard time making lunch at school because I'm broke right now. But it was hard because I come to school and I try and eat breakfast and I'm like, well, I can't have the milk because, can't eat the breakfast, can't eat anything like that. So that was really hard. I do notice they have vegetarian options, but they're always taken or they're always looked like beat down. Like they weren't, like they didn't have as much love and tender and care as the other food did. But
That's great feedback. So with the vegan option, just speaking that one is a little bit difficult. Hopefully with these new regulations, it will be a little bit easier with that protein requirements, but most of the time we have to offer a cheese with something. But now because of that we can offer the nuts and seeds as a full protein requirement, that hopefully should be able to help us a little bit more with those vegetarian and vegan options.
Trustee Kelly?
Well, a comment, which is I see the tremendous consistency from your department, sending out the newsletter, sending out menus. I think the communications of your staff and you has been really outstanding. I see it and just wanted to give you a tip. And there was a blog post I read recently about a district that had tremendous success, like incorporating ethnic foods that reflected their students' backgrounds. And I was wondering if there's room for us to, consider doing that as we are evaluating menus and applying the new nutritional guidelines.
Yeah, definitely. And that was one thing that was coming up with our Alta Vista Student Advisory Group. That was one of their asks too. So in the next couple of meetings with them, we're going to do a deeper dive into what kind of items that they're wanting to see on the menu. So yes, thank you.
And I don't have any. I just want to thank you guys. Because I know for many of our kids, they eat the best at school. They don't have food at home, they're food insecure. So I just want to thank all of you guys for the work that you do to feed our students. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Carly, do you have a day for kitchen cook-off this summer?
I haven't looked at the schedules, but professional development day.
Yeah.
So I'll let you know.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Next on the, then student board members, it is 8:10. Y'all go study for your tests, your AP exam, your IB. And yes, and we'll take a 5-minute break.
Anytime.
Next on the agenda is 9C 2024 behavior continuum of support presentation.
Before we start this, I asked for this to be on the agenda with very specific things to talk about. And, I look at the report and those things aren't in the report. So unless you guys have specific questions, I would like about the report, I would actually like to get for the reason why this is on the agenda to begin with. Which is not this. So I asked for it to be on the agenda with a specific reason, which is not in this report.
Well, we have the behavior team in this report, and I think you had questions about the role of the behavior team.
No, I did not. You know exactly what I questioned. Okay, I'm gonna start. Here's my question. We all know in our primary, we have many students coming to us with many crazy behaviors. That it's very hard for them to be in a regular classroom situation. We have to do the process. We have to give them the time. We have to go through the process. I get all that. We have to do our job. I feel we're doing better at identifying kids earlier, but before we had to wait till they were in third grade. So several opportunities in several classrooms this year, and they were 2 TKs, 3 TKs in a kindergarten, who people contacted me and said, Rosemary, we can't do this anymore. They're taking leaves. They can't teach their kids. They go to observe other classrooms. Their kids are almost a full year behind the other kids in the classrooms they observe because they've been dealing with this. So my questions for the team, what I was told by the behavior people in some of these classrooms and through my visits were, and the teachers, and reading the emails that went back and forth between the behavior person in the district and the general ed teachers. And it went sort of like this. They have students, many things, that can't exist in the general ed classroom until we do what we have to and help them. Some teachers we leave be and say, sorry, they're low priority. And we don't even give those teachers the help. Or we send a PBIS person from the team and say, walk them around the playground, which they do, and then they throw them back in the classroom. The teachers still can't teach. It's not okay. And then if they get the support from the behavior team have been coming in, which is what I want you guys to have a conversation about, because I believe our policy needs to change immediately. And they go into the general ed teacher. The general ed teachers come back in the morning and the behavior teachers, without the general ed teachers knowing, have rearranged their classroom. Okay, they come into the classroom. Not only do they do this practice, but they tell the teacher that they have to take it out of their pocket and give the kid every single time, which is like every minute, like you're feeding your puppy when you're training them. And I observed this, Skittles and Goldfish. Skittles were just banned in California. Why are we giving kids with these behaviors? We're filling them with sugar. Not okay, bad practice. When a teacher, and I've been that teacher, I've never had the behavior team, but I represented many teachers who have. And the general ed teacher has a job to do, and that is to educate the kids in the classroom. The behavior specialist, in their own writing, said, and this is almost an exact quote, we don't care about the learning in the classroom. All we care about is the behavior of the one child. We can't have that kind of disconnect, you guys. We can't. These people in the classroom have a job to do. They come in and they come out in a very short time. and they hand out skills. I was there, the kid, kindergarten classrooms have the rugs, was rolling his whole body in this rug. So he was inside the rug. And she's trying to teach kindergartners. He would go up to the tables and hit them. There was another classroom where the child was like on the desk in this position that was very disturbing. And then she would climb and she would start to hurt herself. And she was told, your kids aren't severe enough, so teach the rest. And we're not gonna worry about this. We can't do the same. We've got to make policies. No junk, no goldfish. The general ed teacher's classroom is their classroom. Nobody has the right to go in and change a classroom around without talking to the teacher first. So these are all things, not just once, not just twice, over and over again, that are happening with that team. And you're shaking your head, Jesse, you're telling me you knew this?
When I found out. So
Okay.
yes, these are the things I've heard, and so in, some of our classrooms this year with the behaviors of the smaller students, some very aggressive things that are happening. And so we have been working on what can we do to better our systems to make sure that when we get informed of this happening, we are in there to help triage and support, better support for our behavior specialists who are going in those classrooms to provide that support and better ways to communicate things like that, because we know that.
Because that communication, when I read those emails back and forth, I was horrified by the way the classroom teachers were spoken to. Not okay.
So we have discussed that as a team. We have worked with certain people. So we should see improvements in those areas. So when it was brought to our attention, we did work on that.
And do we have different rewards? So the one teacher
Well,
was telling me her whole career, she's been doing this forever. She's never used food, never, ever used food for a reward. She always used the smelly things or the stickers or the little things. And this year she was forced to go out and buy the big thing of Skittles and the thing and start to use them for all the kids in the classroom.
Yeah, that is not something I know Nareda recommends. I know Rhonda does not recommend that. It is not something I recommend we do. Because we should not be giving kids Skittles. There are some times when some students do respond to a food behavior.
Okay, but we have to select the food.
Exactly, and it should be in combination with their parents. There should be a conversation about it. The rearranging of a teacher's classroom, agree with you. All these things you've said, we agree with you 100%.
And that's
so
our
we need
goal,
to-
isn't one child, regardless, our goal is all of our children if we work in this district.
Yeah. So what, we have become aware of these things, they've been brought out, and we send out people. One of the students, that you talked about up on the desk, I personally went out to observe. You know what happened today? I go observe,
Not there.
she's perfect. No behaviors,
Well,
and everything, and I was there for like at
was-
least an hour to wait to see if something was gonna happen.
Well,
Nothing.
and that solution in that one particular room was like, well, we'll put them in the learning center, but then they go back in the afternoon and nothing can be done in the afternoon.
So those are things we're working on.
And I know it's huge,
Mhm.
but these other things are not huge.
No,
They
those
are
are
things that need to, but thank you for attention, and I wanted my other board members to hear, because it's difficult sometimes to let them know exactly what's happening out there. So thank you for.
Yeah, and it is, and the reason for this presentation and a behavior continuum support is really to talk about what do we do just in the general education classroom, right? Those are our tier 1 supports, our positive behavior intervention supports, those kind of things. But when we have some students who need those additional supports that are not yet identified as a student with a disability, that's when our team comes in with, how can the counselor help more? What can we do with a social worker? Do we need to bring a behavior specialist in and not do these things that you've indicated, but, obviously a little bit more coaching with some of our behavior.
Very powerful.
But yeah.
Put it together and we did it right.
Right. And so those are the things working together now between Rhonda being a, specialist in MTSS, Nareda also, having that background. Both of these ladies combined, both have ed specialist degrees and have both taught at every level in sped ed and gen ed. So they work beautifully together. So it's like,
okay, what are we doing when kids aren't responding that don't have an identified disability? And then what do we need to do if we see kids who need more intensive supports? And so these two are working beautifully together on what do we do to support.
So thank you. I just, like I said, I'm very frustrated with getting the message out and getting a true conversation and saying.
Yeah. Our data is showing that our numbers are decreasing, so we're very happy about that.
That behavior.
Yeah, especially in TKK
I thought you
one,
said we had like 70.
but it's down from years before.
So
we
do have. That's what we never paid attention to the years before. We let them go till third grade and to deal with it.
Well, I'm wondering if there might need to be a new, a process that teachers can go through to report this and get not, you know.
So we, Rhonda has done really good work this year on, bringing a really big group of teachers from across the district and administrators to look at our student success team process. And so, we found that we needed to kind of create more consistency across the district in this process, put a technology platform in place to be able to track this. And then it should give us that kind of alert system that you're talking about there when these behaviors happen and how do we triage quickly.
So for the board, we're addressing Ms. Smithfield's concerns. I mean, you have been addressing, and we will continue to do that because that's absolutely necessary. Did you want to see any more of these slides? Because the purpose of these slides is to outline proactively what they are doing.
I looked at the slides, so I'm good.
I do, and I want to hear more about the continuous reporting.
So perhaps we can go through them quickly, but again, I just wanted to illustrate the fact that they have a plan, they're working through it. There are issues, problems that we're following up on, but this is the overarching plan, and it might be helpful to see kind of how they're addressing it.
Yeah, so Rhonda, why don't you start with continuous support and then
Absolutely.
we'll go from there.
Thank you. So yes, the continuum of support is the foundational element to ensure that all students receive what they need, when and where they need it for academic behavior, social, emotional, and mental health. Specifically in the area of behavior for this evening's presentation, when we look at the universal supports in place, our schools are implementing school-wide behavior expectations, and students are explicitly taught what those behavior expectations are, as well as acknowledgement systems to reward students for their demonstration of positive behavior. For some of those students that need those supplemental supports, that can look like small group instruction based on a specific area of need. For example, social skills, maybe a check-in, check-out assigned to a caring adult that they connect with on a daily basis. And then for those students that do need those intensified supports, that could look like one-on-one counseling or even a behavior contract. And so what we would like to do is have Nareda just talk specifically about those intensified and supplemental supports, and then I can come back and talk about what we're doing at the universal level school-wide.
Thank you, Rhonda. Now going to the next slide, I'm going to be speaking specifically for the district behavior support team. We do have a system in place in which all teachers, including general ed or special education school site teams, along with their administrator, can actually submit a referral to the district behavior support team. And so what the process is we do have initial observation meetings. We do a follow-up with the team, almost like a triage meeting after the observation is conducted to develop a plan of action. And so some of the additional supports are there bulleted, like modeling behavior interventions. It could also be seen by having the district behavior support team aides go into the classroom and actually model and be with the student for specific times of the day. Just to clarify, our district behavior support team provides supports to not only general education students, but also our special education students. And so the next slide is very specific to the data that we've been tracking. So when looking at the referrals from 2019, 2020, you've seen a consistent access to the district behavior support team. When you look at the referrals, we've had 96 that year. And then you look at 22, 23, we had 98 total referrals. As of April 24th, we've had 126. So this actual data shows that we have an effective system of tracking and that we use to monitor and request when we do have the need for a district behavior support team. I did want to focus into how the request in terms of for TK Kinder have decreased from last year to this year. Last year at the end of the year of 22-23, we were at 57%.
And now this year we're at 41%. So that could speak to the systems that we've implemented in terms of PBIS. And so in the next slide, I also was able to differentiate between male and female or specific grade levels because I do think that last year that question was brought up. And so just looking at the total referrals, we actually did a breakdown between elementary, middle, and high. And when looking even at our elementary sites, if you see double digits, even 10 for a school site, some of those school sites highlighted do have specialized programs, meaning that we have our students that receive special education specific services that can still access these referrals. So those could align to the specific access of referrals between special ed and general ed. And so then we've also outlined what are the specific behaviors. The next slide is broken down even more by TK, kinder, first and second grade. Again, going back to what board trustee Smithfield said, is that TK to first grade levels where we're seeing that transition, we are being proactive and actually monitoring where our students are moving to. So in preparing for next year, our district behavior team does have a watch list. So we do identify who are the students that we need to monitor as they're transitioning into their new setting.
Specifically, students coming from a very isolated setting like CalApp.
Correct.
Yeah, and let me just jump in there too with CalAB. And so that was one of the things we did notice this year is that our transition plan between CalAB and our sites, because of our expansion of TK, some of our students that started at CalAB may have only started maybe in March or April. And then they were off for the summer and then we transferred them into a comprehensive school setting that was way bigger, more kids, not as many aides. And so we saw that happen and we knew we needed to correct that going into this next school year. So Nareda and her team have just been like every transition meeting, we're looking. We're also at CalAB this next year, holding some kids back and creating a TKK program at CalAB. So we're not transitioning these kids that didn't have enough time to transition to a comprehensive school. So that should help decrease those behaviors a little bit too, by keeping them a little bit longer in a more supported environment before we transition them off the CalAB campus.
And then a couple questions on the behavioral team. How many staff do we have? And if a teacher submits like a request a day, like is that like a 1 week process and turn out around, or is it like a month process?
That's a good question. So in terms of our process, we have 2 district behaviors, TOSAs, and 4 behavior aides. Usually when the referral is submitted, you do get a response within 48 hours. That's our process. It could take about within 2 weeks to actually get a district behavior support team out, depending on the severity need of students, because sometimes we do get those very high significant behaviors that you're like, 2 weeks isn't going to do it. So we do get the contact information immediately and we will try to accommodate, because we're also very respectful of all the referrals that have come before in trying to move a specific team member to go immediately, provide an observation and a plan of action if there is a safety plan or any other types of supports that need to be addressed immediately.
And
So
this is where I find these 2 teams working well together too, is that if something is going to take a little bit longer because our behavior team is impacted, it's a call to Rhonda to say, is there somebody on your team, a counselor that can go out? Rhonda herself goes out. You know, other people on the gen ed side of the house that maybe can go out and make an observation and come back to Nareda and say, this one probably needs to be bumped up a little bit quicker. So we are providing that. Yeah. So
Or
we are
providing
providing
that
that
extra
communication
support.
between each other too.
Is just the teacher submitting it, or the teacher with the principal, or like who's involved as part of like?
the principal, psychologist, and counselor, since that is identifying for the team that is immediately to provide support, we do, in the application, we do put that the teacher needs to be involved and informed that we're submitting, because they're a big component of that process, and so that is part of it.
Got it. And what kind of training do these staff receive to make sure that the pedagogies aligned with our
So,
district, curriculum instruction?
yeah, so then are you referring to the 2 district behavior team members?
Those and then the 4 behavioral aides.
Okay,
Like
so
we're not
the,
just picking some like new person that
oh, correct.
is applying for the first time and first time ever working in education.
Correct. No, so our 2 district behavior support team members actually have not only bachelor's but master's in education.
They also have very specific work, they're board behavior certified analysts. And so this takes extensive work. It could take anywhere from 4 to 8 years to get certified nationally. Both of our district behavior support team, TOSAs, actually are representatives of our captain cadre for the county in terms of not only specialists that provide supports with students with autism and students with specific behaviors. They're also providing the NBITS training, which is also a regional and even through NICSE training. They are very high level behavior interventionists that provide supports and strategies. They actually attend trainings, they provide trainings. Not only that, they are actually our trainers for the crisis prevention intervention. If you've heard of CPI training and having CPI trained staff, they actually are the trainers for NICSE. And so in terms of their level of training, not only do they have the certification, but they've actually worked in our schools, been the autism teachers, education specialists at the middle school, at the high school, and even at the elementary level. Even at the start of this year, most of them started in classrooms to help as we were working on filling in vacancies. So they have experience not only working with special education, but general education as well.
God, and this is where the bottleneck of like giving candy was corrected. Is this that department?
It's, I don't have the details of that specific incident, but if it is, it could have came from a specific, I don't know. I don't have all the details of it, but I believe it is.
Okay. It came from one of the two, it came from one of the two TOSAs.
Yeah.
Just to be, I want to be clear, it came from one of the two TOSAs on the behavior.
It came from one of the specialists.
Yeah, the TOSA, yeah.
Definitely.
There's one other item that trustee Smithfield and I have discussed, that I think is important to talk about, so we're clear about everything. Another area of frustration. And that is when there is a transition from a highly structured environment like CalAB to a general ed environment with many more students, the teachers that receive them, the general ed teachers, need to be more involved in the conversation before they receive them. So perhaps you can talk a little bit more about, we know that you're working on making those adjustments, so maybe you can talk a little bit more about how we can make sure those teachers, did I get that right, Ms. Smithfield? They're more informed.
Yeah, it's kind of the group that came from CalAB, and we know every year we say we have these kids, we have no support in our classroom, the kids are running amok, and the principals are spending their whole day in there. So yeah, so what are we doing for those kids next year? I know you're keeping some of them at CalAB.
Yes, but we're also expanding programs. So we're expanding an autism TK classroom or program at California Avenue. We're also expanding a TKK moderate to severe program at California Avenue. Now, speaking to the students that are assessed in late spring, what ends up happening is what we're doing at the moment is we're making sure that each student actually has a functional behavior assessment developed. If when they're coming into CalAB to getting their assessment, we see those behaviors. Not only that, we're sharing all of the information, having transition meetings to their sending school or the receiving school. We also share with them all of the information of the students, any type of plans that are going to be put in place for the student is shared with the receiving team. And so those students specifically, any student coming in between March and even up to June, if we get any, those students will be put on our watch list because we technically have not had enough time with them. Some of them don't even really get to be placed at California Avenue, because let's keep in mind that California Avenue is also our assessment center. And so some of our students are getting their assessment there, and they don't even get to receive their offer of FAPE to at CalAB when they're already transitioning to their new school. So what we're doing is we're taking the information, sharing it with the next school. And so for some of the students that just came in recently, those may be the students that may be offered to stay at California Avenue. So in general, our district behavior support team, not only them, but we do have TOSAs and team members that are also board certified BCBAs that can help with the functional behavior assessments. They're also visiting CalAB. We're doing more observations on our students so that we have multiple eyes in terms of expertise before they get to the school sites. And again, let's keep in mind that between the time of March and August, when our students do start,
there are a lot of things that happen and that can impact our students, but at least we have the assessments and understand what we're going to start with when they transition to their new school site.
Trustee Kelly, do you have any questions or comments?
Just wanted to clarify the Skittle goldfish thing. That was like an isolated incident in one classroom, or was that a policy that was used in multiple sites?
Yeah. When they go in, they tell the teacher that the Skittles, goldfish, or whatever.
Like multiple sites was, because it was like
Are you aware?
one site or multiple? I didn't understand what you were saying. Yes to.
I was saying yes, and that's been for years. That's not like something right now. That's been for several years.
But that was across multiple sites.
Yes.
And
It's
we
the
will,
practice that they tell the general ed teachers they should be doing for these children.
and it's one thing to give a sticker or stamp. But food incentives, unless it's something that, you know, it's worked out with a parent because we know this works at home or it's being carried over from, you know, another program or something like that, you normally don't use food incentives. So we'll definitely be looking into that and reteaching our team.
And we have it on the email, so.
Yeah, no, yeah.
All right, trustee Morocco? All right, I have no questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Return Carrie's turn. I'm gonna stay up here to
Next on the agenda is 9D, 2024 digital citizenship presentation.
So as our principal from Monte Vista that got the shout out earlier today.
I promise you,
And she
she
heard
wasn't
that.
the plant.
I heard that. But as Carrie comes up, I just want to point out that Carrie and our team at the district office have been working on this topic for a number of years, and there's a reason why we have a principal up in front of you. We want to make sure that when we create new structures and change protocols and procedures, that the people on the campuses influence the design of the program. So there's a reason why she's here. She has a lot of support behind her, but Carrie is the lead on that, and she's been the lead for a number of years. So walk them through it, because it's not just cell phones. It's much more complex than that. So take it away.
Well, he did the introductions. Well,
Well, I'm the one that brought her in, so I just wanted to explain.
Thank you for having me today. I started in this work several years ago. Little thing called COVID happened, and we needed to get 20,000 devices out to students. And so went from being just a principal to supporting writing some support with educational technology. In regards to digital citizenship, this work has been going on for several years now. Specifically, I work with our technology advisory group, which includes staff, classified, certificated, and a number of perspectives to make recommendations and guidance for how we should be using our educational technology in the district, as well as this big concept of how do we support our students to be responsible digital citizens. So one of the things that came from that group, and not only from the staff in that group, but also from things that we are hearing directly from our students in our student forums, is the need for direct lessons and guidance in digital citizenship, common language around digital citizenship in our district, as well as common policies and things that we develop over time that supports our learners as they move into the 21st century. Because I don't know about you, but I didn't grow up with a cell phone, and they have a very different life than what most of us probably grew up with. And so there's a lot for us to consider that is outside of the scope of what we are comfortable with in our own upbringing. And so in many ways, we're a little bit behind what our kids already know. And so it's important for us to be reaching out to our kids as well to get their perspectives on some of these important issues. The first thing that I want to share about is when we started this work a couple of years ago with our TAG team, they talked about the need for a really important tightness in our common language that we're using with our students and staff. And so we adopted what are called the 5 competencies. These are endorsed by, it's called the International Society for Technology and Education. They're a leading educational organization. They work with many, many schools. They influence policy in education, as well as provide professional development for schools in the areas of digital citizenship. And these 5 competencies are what we have adopted in Vista Unified. We actually have posters of these. They are on every single classroom. They're also in a lot of shared spaces. So you might see them in media rooms, libraries, common spaces like that on campuses. And when I say that this is a common language, I mean that this is a common language, not just for our students, but also for our staff, for our parents, for our families. A major goal of this work is this is not just a conversation that we're having with our students, but this is for us to strive for our entire community. Another layer to that is we also adopted this very easy to understand concept for our students called think before you post. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And I think there's probably many adults that we work with that also could benefit from our think posters. But our think posters are something that's up in our classrooms as well, along with those 5 competencies. Those think posters, in part of our professional development for our teachers, we recommend that they're integrating that as part of just their regular instruction throughout their school day, but also specifically teaching to it as well as part of their direct lessons in digital citizenship. So that brings us to what lessons are we teaching them in digital citizenship? We use a program called Common Sense Media, which has free lessons from grades TK all the way up through 12 that are direct lessons that are aligned to those 5 competencies. They are robust. They include a number of resources, not only for our staff, but also for our families as well. There's a huge family component that goes along with that in terms of what we can do to outreach. And we've shared several of those resources to our families in community newsletters and workshops and things that we've provided to our families. I will point out too, the nice thing about Common Sense Media is it is regularly being updated to reflect the current reality of technology. So even if you were to go on there today, it does not have the same lessons that it had even several years ago when we started this work. They've introduced new topics as they relate to artificial intelligence and other areas that are kind of new and upcoming technologies. So it's another way for us to, as we're providing these direct lessons, making sure that we are staying up to date with the new technologies that are coming out. So a huge component of this work as well is our family workshops. This work is not just limited to our students. One of the common refrains that I hear from our principals, I hear from teachers that we work with is so much of what our students are exposed to is often not happening just in our school settings, but it's happening at home. But as a result, is affecting the things that are happening in our school settings. And so we see these family workshops as an opportunity to build that awareness of what digital citizenship is, teach families some of the tools that they need to be able to equip their students with what they need, and then help families develop healthy practices as well. I think this is an area, and this is a passion of mine, that we can significantly grow and reimagine as we move into next year. We tried something really unique this year at Monte Vista, and that was rebranding. Instead of from we're going to teach you a digital citizenship workshop, we are going to reimagine the workshop, and we are going to teach you everything that you need to know before your child goes to middle school. And you are going to be here, and we're going to do it together, not just with your parent, but we're going to do it together with your child. This is an interactive workshop. This is an opportunity for the adults to learn the things that the adults need to know about digital citizenship, for the students to learn things that they need to know with their teacher. But then the most powerful part is for them to come back together with their families and make a real connection and have a real conversation about what our digital citizenship commitments are for our families. We just recently ran this workshop. We're doing it again on Monday, and the feedback has been incredibly positive, incredibly valuable. And I think it's that interactive component that's been hugely, hugely successful. So a vision that I have moving forward is being able to take this model of workshop and expand it throughout our elementaries, middles, and high schools, so that we're moving away from okay, we're going to tell you how to do digital citizenship with your families, to we're going to help you build connections with your families and create something that feels healthy and right for you within your family's values. And so it's an excellent opportunity for us to continue that work moving forward. So let's talk a little bit more specifically into cell phones. Cell phones, they're a challenge for our kids, and they're a challenge for our adults as well. One of the things that came out, and I'll point this out before I get into our policy. One of the things that our students shared with us in our workshop with 5th grade students is not only are the kids concerned from their own voices about the things that they hear and they see on their cell phones, they're also concerned about their own families. They're concerned about adults that are not present for them. They're concerned about, everyone at the dinner table is on their cell phone. They're concerned about, I want time with my family. And so this is more than just telling our kids what they can and cannot do and an exhaustive list on their cell phones, but helping them really build healthy habits and healthy habits together with their families. And part of that starts with the adults too. How are the adults in our organization, in our families, in our teaching staff, modeling that healthy balance and what it looks like? And I'll just throw out kind of regarding cell phones, a interesting statistic that should give us all pause. But a recent study found that the average amount of notifications that a teenage student receives in any given school day. So school day notifications could be from apps and things on their phones, could be text messages. The average number per school day is 192 messages per day. That averages out to 11 per hour, or one every about 5 minutes. And so you can imagine for a young child's brain that's still developing and still working on focusing on their schoolwork, and all of the things that they need to do are literally being poked at every 5 minutes with a notification. And I think if we were to even look at it as adults, think about how many times you've probably received a notification just in the time that we've all been sitting here. Our attention is very divided these days. And so how can we support our kiddos and provide them with a time where they're able to focus on their learning, keep those distractions away, and be able to feel good and healthy and balanced with their cell phone use. So one of the ways that we're looking at helping them in that process in Vista Unified is ensuring that cell phones are not in use specifically, not only during the classroom time, but also during non-instructional times at the elementary and the middle school. And generally this is already in practice in most of our elementary schools. It's already in practice at several of our middle schools, and when I say non-instructional times, I'm meaning like in passing periods in the hallway, maybe at lunchtime or at recess time, that they're not engaging on their cell phones. There's a lot of reasons for that. I will just tell you though, as an elementary principal, probably my biggest reason for that, we want them to engage in appropriate social play. We want them to be together with their classmates, interacting, learning appropriate social play. And we feel that by instituting a policy like this, it's going to take away something that is constantly pulling at their attention, but also creating a space for them where they're able to have those positive social relationships at school without the outside distractions. And so that is what we're moving forward into for next year with cell phones. Last one, and this one's also intriguing to me. We have started very fresh and very new, what we're calling our Artificial Intelligence Task Force. We've met 3 times this year. We consist of a number of staff members, classified, certificated. We have parents, we have students represented on our team as well, to basically explore artificial intelligence as it relates specifically to education, and support our school district with how we might move forward with guidance around how we utilize artificial intelligence. And I think all of us in this room probably have a general awareness of there are some pretty big concerns with artificial intelligence, concerns regarding plagiarism, cheating, deep fakes, you name it. There's big concerns about what can go wrong with artificial intelligence. But to that other end, I also want to share a story with you that happened just the same week I was leading one of these meetings. I received an email from a 10-year-old student at my school, and he was emailing me to let me know and to ask if he could meet with a friend of ours who's a university professor in computer science. And he wanted to meet with this university professor because he's been working at home. He built his own computer. He set up all of the coding for it, and he's building his own prototype version of an AI program on this computer. His parents are not computer science majors. This is just a kid with a passion for computers and AI now. And so as a district, we have an obligation on both of these fronts. We have an obligation to support our students, to make sure that they are being safe, to make sure that we have guardrails in place so that they are taken care of. They're not being exposed to things that they shouldn't be exposed to, that they're not plagiarizing work. But then on the other hand, we need to support students like this one that just sent me this email, who literally, He's not asking to use AI, he's asking to make AI. And so that is also the 21st century world that we're living in right now. So how do we kind of marry those two concepts and create a set of guidance that will work and support both ends of that spectrum? This is difficult work and kind of deep conversations between everyone on all of this. So we are in the process of bringing forward some draft guidance, and that will be something that we look forward to in the future with you, to be able to bring forward specifically some recommendations that you might be able to make for a future board policy.
I have a comment about the AI. With this draft that, the committee, is it a committee? That's
Task force, yeah.
task force, okay, is creating, is it including AI in the context of how our employees may or may not use it? It is.
So yes, that is the direction that we're going. This first initial draft had some guidance for employees in there. There's a lot of room for additional guidance there. And that was one of the points of feedback that was brought up at our very last meeting. So when we went through our draft guidance, we asked, what does AI look like more specifically for employees, and appropriate uses and different opportunities in the workspace. So yes, that's coming.
That's good. I know there has been a concern from some of our classified staff on how or when it's used and such. And so I think it's important for the board to have a dialogue when this is going to be ready. I know it won't be ready anytime soon. What, 6 months, a year? What do you all think?
I would love to have something, at least an initial idea for you by fall, winter of this year. And this is going to be an evolving process.
Right.
So we will likely come up with some initial policy recommendations. One of the things that we talked about as part of our structure is this needs to evolve regularly over time. We need to be evaluating this, because just as quickly as we put something out and we put it on paper, the AI changes. So, and the technology changes. And so we need to be able to kind of swiftly adapt to some of those changes over time.
Yeah, when we were chatting about timelines, to answer your question, President Alvarado, we thought that perhaps like a January window for the board to start conversations specifically about a policy, that would give us enough time. But I think one of the main points that Carrie's making is that policy will probably grow and change over the course of 3 to 4 years as we refine it. So January is what we were thinking.
And and just for you to know kind of a little bit of background about how did the team go about starting to develop some of this guidance? We're very fortunate in the state of California. California is one of few states that already has some guidance written out by the California Department of Education, specifically regarding AI. And the US Department of Education has also provided some guidance. So we drew heavily from both of those sources to kind of help us with moving that direction for Vista Unified. But I do want to point out one of the critical pieces of both of those, the US Department and the state of California regarding to their guidance, is the emphasis on still human connection.
Yeah.
And that is still a huge, huge part of it. And I just do have a quick little quote that our team regularly circles back to when we meet with the task force. And that is that AI cannot replace the value of a student's relationship with a caring educator on a human level. And we look at that quote every time that we meet together, because that has to ring true for us in what we do and how we align our policies, because it all goes back to our learner portraits. And are we in our best service to our kids? Are we connecting with our kids? And we're starting there. The AI should be in support of that, not in replacement of that.
Trustee Morocco, question?
Yeah. I have lots.
Well, let's, could we do like maybe 2 or 3 minutes each so we can go around with everybody?
Yeah, okay, so.
Have my question time.
Thank you. So I was told, actually, you told me, Dr. Doyle told me, that these were gonna be completely banned in elementary and middle school, but these flip phones they could bring these, but they had to be in their backpacks. Is that not?
We don't have the actual, it's not gonna be a policy. It's gonna be in the board in the school handbook, and there'll be a set of rules.
Okay.
So the rules are being developed right now. they'll be given to the students and the parents at the beginning of the school year. So the specific rules aren't identified. One thing to note is that there is a rule, there is an ed code that says the kids have a right. And I think the question that we'll have to go through and the board will be part of those, that development is, do we go with the ban or we just go with, there are times when you can use them under the supervision of an adult and times when you cannot. So I think that will be the conversation.
Yeah, and also there are students who with disabilities that the app monitors things like blood sugar and stuff like that. So we do need to be sensitive to that.
Absolutely.
And-
Policies would take into consideration students with IEPs, disabilities, emergency type situations.
But trustee Morocco brings up an interesting, and this is the conversation we had, which is how far do we go? Do we get to a point where kids can have a flip phone and that addresses the ability to connect with their family? Where do we go with this? So I mean, it's a good conversation. We are not there yet, but it's absolutely part of the conversation.
And we're right to be talking about that.
And then the other thing is, I really love the think. I really love that, and I'm wondering if there wouldn't be a possibility to come up with some sort of stickers or like clips that students could put like maybe next to their computer or on their Chromebook that has that think on there. So if they're engaging on social media that they, you know, all of that, or a sticker that goes on their phone so that they always are reminded about that. So I'm just kind of throwing that out.
Wouldn't be hard to do.
I love it. You're after my heart. I'm all about a good branding.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be hard to do. You
Right,
clearly
no,
have it.
I'm just, anything that we could do, anything that,
We
you
can
know,
make that happen.
like I said, the stickers, erasers.
Yeah.
Okay, that was it. I'm, any questions?
Trustee Kelly?
Yeah, mine was also related to slide 7 and that we won't be permitting the phones. I wanted to know what that looks like in practice and enforcement, and sounds like we don't have it fully developed yet, but
Yeah, I think that in the next month or so, again, we want the principals to develop because they're the ones that are going to be implemented. They know the parents, they know the students best. So Carrie will be working with the principals to develop our iteration. We'll run it by the board so you can see it. And then ultimately in the fall, my guess is it'll probably change over time based on its success or failure. We'll probably make those adjustments.
and I also think we need to incorporate parent voice and student
course,
voice.
of
You know,
course,
we
yeah.
need to know what our families need and expect. And, I don't think it would benefit any of us to put a policy in place that's so strict, it generates a lot of backlash. Or that it doesn't help families, stay connected the way they need to. I know in my era, carpool could change in the blink of an eye, and I
Yes,
needed
it
to
can.
be able to contact my daughter and tell her, go to the blue car today. So yeah, we need to be really mindful. I support it. I know we're on the right track. Yeah, I don't think it's right for us to mandate what kind of phone someone has to buy. That's a bridge too far for me. I think families have the right to decide what they want. But I think we want to hear from parents.
Absolutely.
Informing these policies.
Absolutely. And our kids, you mentioned our kids too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think Carrie pointed out something that's really important, just to reiterate. Most of our elementary schools already have something like this in place, where there's very few times when kids can actually use their phones. And two of our, I said elementary schools, and two of our middle schools already have this. So we're already kind of steps into this process, and those schools will help us as we kind of develop this.
Yeah, and I'll just give you an example in practice. So Monte Vista, students may have cell phones, so we know that a lot of them are calling for rehearsals and practices and all kinds of things after school. But how we approach it during the school day is during the school day, it needs to remain in their backpack. So it just remains in their backpack, doesn't come out at recess, doesn't come out, anywhere else. It just stays in their backpack during the school day. If there's a reason that they would need to have their cell phone, situation that they might need to call someone, that's a conversation that they can have with their staff member and get it taken care of. And it's been a policy that's served us. It's worked well and haven't had any significant concerns with it. The kids have access to them if they need them after school when they're, going to their things and all of that. So, and similarly, several of our middle schools have similar policies to that as well.
Thanks. Trustee Smithfield?
No, I'm good.
We did it. Thank you, Carrie. Trustee Margaret.
I will just-
Talk.
Oh, did you have?
Yes, first of all, thank you for this presentation. On the presentations, I fully support expanding them. With that, one thing that comes to mind on that one is, making sure that we can get to the parents and like, how do we safeguard around like content? I know for iPads, there's like those apps where you can lock them in so that children are seeing appropriate content and not seeing things that they shouldn't be. And so that's definitely, one that comes to mind. When it comes to, the cell phones, supported with that policy, at the same time, making sure that, we try to reduce, so it's not like we're expelling a student because they have their phone. And so like, how do we make sure that, there's some process safeguards in between? Obviously, like, student is being defined and escalates, how do we make sure that we try to de-escalate, so that it doesn't involve an altercation, a fight, violence, et cetera. Also on the topic of digital citizenship, cybersecurity, I'm not sure if that's incorporated, but it seems like kids, order supplies with their parents' credit card, and so like, obviously there's that whole component and identity theft and all the things that lead to like human trafficking, which we had a phenomenal workshop with City of Vista. Definitely packed, and that's one of those ways where like, we can safeguard, teach our children best practices, they'll be better off in the long run. Artificial intelligence, I see that as something to embrace, obviously with safeguards. Where I'm coming from on that is more of like, how can we use that as a tool to support learning and support our staff, whether it's to create, activities for like sight words, I'm thinking of learning about books or like content that's related to MTSS standards and, connecting it with what they just saw from a speaker. And so, I use AI in my work and I know it's been very helpful and very efficient, and with the, Dr. Dole, like, professional development for staff. And how it can connect. I know that, I have a couple of teachers that have shared ideas, so not sure who's part of that committee, but some ideas your way.
Absolutely.
And Carrie's already led some professional development for our principals on AI. So we're moving down that road.
All right, thank you so much, Mr.
Okay, thank you. I do want to just end with, if you haven't taken a look at it, it came out in our last community update. And Dr. Doyle had shared, he and his leadership team are reading a book right now called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. If you haven't picked it up, it's on my podcast right now while I walk the dog. And it is a fabulous look at kind of the shift from the phone-based childhood or shift from the play-based childhood to the phone-based childhood, and some of the mental health concerns that we're seeing with our children's exposure to some of the social media and some of the phone use. And so it's a great read. It has some really solid recommendations for both schools and families. So if you haven't taken a peek at that, that is something that we're also looking at as a leadership team to kind of help us with our work as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is 9E, the Measure LL Micro Bond Workshop.
Are we gonna start? We're ready to start?
Yeah. You may begin.
Thank you very much, President Alvarado, Vice President Kelly, and our superintendent and members of the Board of Education. Our goal tonight is to provide you a brief overview of a few updates regarding some of our current projects. But really the focus that we would like to move to is on slides 7, 8, and 9, which has to do with Bovier and the GMP issuance, which will be done in two parts. The first part tonight, the second part in August of this year, and we will go through the rationale and reason why. So first off are our financials. We have no significant report to make on the financials. These have been updated as per the monthly update. There are no unanticipated costs that are associated with these. And just moving through, just in case you haven't had the opportunity to get out, that's what the V-Wing now looks like. So one of the major promises of Major LL was the removal of portable classrooms. The removal of portable classrooms is not just for the sake of removing portable classrooms. Portable classrooms oftentimes are well past their use cycle, but also sometimes often have other materials, lead pipes, asbestos, and other things that are critical to have removed. So the new buildings replace these, and they are gone. And if you went out there today, it no longer looks like that. It's actually, they're down to the dirt, going through things and working on things. Then we have the updated renderings of Bovier Elementary. We want to thank our architect who's in attendance this evening from Renaud Clark, Steve Prince is here for getting these updates. which will be coming your way in many items, but these are just some quick rendering updates that show some of those updated features. Then if we move along to slide 5, some of the interior courtyard spaces and the interior spaces of classroom to start to wrap our head around what this is going to look like and what we should anticipate. And finally, in partnership with our student ambassadors, students and teachers, the updates being made to the play structures and playgrounds. And I want to thank Steve and his team for working through us through a difficult process of finding 100% shade coverage at a particular time of the year to make sure that our playgrounds had 100% shade coverage. So thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Grace Chan, who is going to walk you through just a quick timeline of what you can expect on this anticipated construction milestones and just a brief overview of some of the things going on. Chris Dowler is with us, who's going to be our construction manager during this construction process for Beauvilliers Elementary, and she's been out knocking on doors to sort of get the word out. But Grace, over to you to give us a general update and what we can expect here as we do the GMP, which is later on the agenda this evening, final action item for the.
Thank you, Dr. Loescher. So we also have our amazing contractor ready on board. John Atherton is representing Menards, and they basically put together the construction schedule. So this is an anticipation of things that you will expect to see in the coming months. And we will also be holding a community update on the 15th of May. And we are making sure that our Spanish speaking and English speaking, everybody will be able to understand what's going on. So all of that is in the works behind the scenes. And then also we're making sure that the neighborhood, and as Dr. Loescher had mentioned, we're going around putting flyers. Hey, please come to the update on May 15th. And then we're also going to be posting on the website so that everybody's aware. So that it is a team effort, including our community, everyone to be a part of this exciting event coming forward. And so all of this will be posted on the website as well. So in case people want to know what's going on, they can easily access and understand and see what the progress is. And then as it progresses, we're going to be updating that information on the website as well. And as Dr. Loescher had mentioned, we split the GMPs apart to keep things going and moving. And so this is what we're bringing to for approval tonight. And so basically the GMP for phase 1 was vetted and reviewed, and everyone's on the same page on this one. And we've included an allowance for this phase 1, which is for the survey, demolition, the grading, earthwork. So the rest of the remaining, as Dr. Loescher had mentioned, is going to be brought to the board for approval in August. And so bid day is on the 11th of June. Any questions on this?
We'll start with, trustee Morocco, your first. Questions?
No.
Okay. Trustee Kelly?
No, thank you.
Trustee Smithfield?
I'm good. Thank you.
Trustee Vargas?
Yeah, and any, one of the latest conversations with the city, I know that traffic is always an issue when we do construction.
Sure.
Obviously, we're notifying the neighbors, but any impacts like, Department of Public Works with the city or any impacts that we anticipate?
So we're going to work through that during this process, but there's a couple of things that are there. First of all, but East Beauvilliers Way being as wide as it is, means we have plenty of room. We're working through the staging process, and as we do that, we're going to inform the city so that way we can collaborate on various traffic mitigation measures that might need to be there. The city's primary concern on working on other projects were for projects that ran right through the center of town where they had a very narrow lane disbursement versus a wide lane disbursement. But we are in contact with Sam. He worked with us closely on Vista Magnet Middle School, and we'll be prepared to share all of that in an upcoming Friday letter as the city collaborates with us on that.
Perfect. I know we've been communicating with parents about their impact, or whether kids are going to go to the Beaumont site or if they're going to choose another site. But just with the summer coming right around the corner, we can continue to get that engagement, and not sure if we need to do some extra rounds of outreach with our family liaisons or.
Yeah, we have been meeting a lot with the parents, and interestingly at Beauvilliers, it's been very well attended. We'll continue to do those meetings as we go through it. The connection to transportation has been a real pull, a real draw for parents to come to these meetings. So we feel good about where we are right now, but we will absolutely continue with our communication. I think one of the things about the mitigation for traffic is one of the positives about this is that school will not be going on at the same time. I think one of our biggest challenges at Vista High with traffic mitigation is we have to manage kids and staff going in and out, and the traffic. So this, I think that will be easier. And there's another project we've been working on with the city, and they've been really collaborative with us. And that is they want to do some upgrades to the Bovier Drive itself with roundabouts and other things. But as we talk with them, Dr. Loescher and I, they likely won't even start those until after we're done with our project. So they won't coincide.
And to clarify, we did have this question from parents. Dr. Doyle and I have met with, well, we've held several parent meetings. The
Many,
room's
yeah.
always full, so 60 to 100 parents per session.
Mhm.
Is the transportation routes that have been tentatively planned do not pick up from the school site. They go into the neighborhoods. That way children and families aren't congregating at the school. So that way we keep clear of that.
Thank you.
That's all. All right. I don't think we have any more questions. I know we have some consent items coming up from this presentation, and we can discuss them further when they come up and all.
You have a consent
Yeah.
item and an action.
Yeah,
item.
Thank you.
Thank
All right. Next on the agenda is 10, the consent calendar. Agenda items 10 through 15, all matters listed on the consent calendar are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted by the board in one motion in the form listed below. There will be no discussion on these items prior to the time the board votes on the motion, unless members of the board, the staff, or the public request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar. The superintendent and staff recommend approval of all consent items. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the consent calendar, pulling 15B, ratify and approve contracts, and pulling 15C, ratify and approve Measure LL bond contracts.
The purpose for that is that we just need to make a couple minor adjustments.
Okay, so moved by myself, trustee Alvarado, seconded by trustee Morocco. Any further discussion, or you want to explain?
No, so explain when you guys are ready.
Okay, all in favor of approving the consent calendar with the aforementioned changes, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes, abstentions? All right, it passes 5-0. So then,
Wait.
yes,
We're at our workshop, you can't approve the minutes. Well, I'm kind of confused because at the
For
last.
the April 26th, you're not going to be for shoot.
Right, but I'm confused because at our regular meeting, which was the April 18th meeting. Trustee Kelly was not at the March meeting. And I made a motion to reconsider, and it was an item that was on the consent calendar, and she voted on that, so. I'm kind of.
I was at the March meeting. I just attended.
Right, but you did not, you stayed from voting on the minutes, but then you voted on the motion to reconsider, which was an item that was on the consent calendar, so I'm kind of confused as to whether we can, when I spoke to Peter, he said we can vote on things that were not there. So
I
I'm
asked Peter
confused.
that question. He said that any board member can vote on it
And,
during the meeting that's in session for which the board member is present.
okay, and then that same rule applies to the minutes.
I have not asked him that
I
question.
did ask him that
Okay.
question.
I don't know what his answer was. I did not ask him that question.
No, I did ask him that question, and he said, yeah, if, yes.
If that's what he said, I can't give you direction on that because I didn't know I was supposed to ask him that question.
Yeah.
I'm confused. What are you talking about?
So. You don't have to be present at a meeting if you familiarized yourself with, the agenda and you feel adequately prepared.
You can vote
You
without
can-
being at a meeting?
Yep. That's
So
what Peter
I
said,
can Not be at a meeting and then still vote?
and still vote on the minutes, yeah.
well, so to clarify, vote to approve minutes,
Vote to.
not action items,
Just a minute.
just minutes.
You can vote on anything.
Yeah, because it's not an action. It's just what was stated. Is it, I think that.
Well, no, but even so, he
No.
said if you're, yeah, like,
Well, consent calendar's an action.
right.
Okay.
And then he
So
said,
he
he
you
said the
can vote on
minutes,
that.
what he said, because I asked him, I said about the minutes, because their Vice President Kelly did not vote on the minutes, but then she did vote on the item on the motion to reconsider,
Okay.
which I found kind of confusing because and he said it's fine. So
Okay, so are you wanting to vote? I'm sorry.
I feel that I adequately prepared myself and went over all the stuff that was presented at the workshop, so that I feel that I'm well versed enough that I can vote for
We
this.
get a second opinion, not only
Yeah.
this, a second opinion from a different law firm about that? I have never heard that in all these
I
years.
have not spoken with them about this topic. This is new for me. I'd be more than happy to talk
There's
with
been
them.
a few things
legal about
lately that have been said from them, and I'm like, where did that come from? So
So-
I would like to have this checked.
So there's two approaches we could take tonight. One approach is we could follow through with the vote. With trustee Morocco voting, and in the event that it's not appropriate, we can revisit it later. There's nothing wrong with doing it like this. And then I can bring it back, and if there's no issue, it's fine, it's solved. So if the board is comfortable with that, we will absolutely follow up. We can check in with one of our other legal folks about it. But for the purpose of moving the meeting along, we could vote tonight, and if we need to adjust or cure in the future, we can cure, because that's all it would require is a cure.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so, item 15B. It's, we need to modify the Beaumont Coran moving contracts to move from the Measure LL contracts listing over to the non-Measure LL contracts listing, as it should be funded from discretionary, not from Measure LL.
Yeah, and so Amy will just give you a really quick explanation so you understand.
So between the two contracts, we have the three schools that require the Board van moving services. The Measure LL, there was an error, and it was Rancho, Beaubier and Beaumont were packaged together on the Measure LL, and Beaumont was by itself on the non-Measure LL. The Beaumont and Rancho Minerva should be non-Measure LL funded for a total of 130,000. And Measure L is just the Beaubier project. All the schools, the quotes are $65,000. It's just how the schools were grouped between the two different funding sources.
And then Amy's provided the language to adjust that. President Alvarado.
Yes.
So you would just, whoever makes a motion, you would read that language, then that would correct the error.
Okay, I make a motion for,
I have something on 15B as well.
we're on 15B.
I wanted to ask about this continued professional services to include ballot measure development related to, it's the team civics. Oh, wait, no, wait.
That's, I don't think
I'm
that's
sorry.
15B. I don't believe that's 15B.
It was the one with the AM PM, that's. I highlighted the wrong thing. It was the AM PM employees that we are outsourcing.
Oh, the strategic kids. Yes, the 21st century ESSER 3 strategic kids. The AM/PM, the 165,000. Yeah,
Okay.
that's
All right.
summer programming. So we did receive additional grant funds, ESSER 3 specific to the AM/PM and some summer programs.
So is that an outsourcing? Are we outsourcing those
Rachel?
AM PM?
Yeah, it's the continued staffing support as we try and hire additional employees. And so these are because we've had such a great response from families. We don't have enough
Right, right.
employees, so we're just supplementing until we can staff.
So my question, thank you,
Yeah,
Rachel.
Rachel, I think Rachel has the answer.
So my question is that, like, you know, we made attempts at letting our classified employees know that these positions are available. So for example, my son is an IA at Cal Ave, and he wasn't aware that this position was
Oh, so he could work in the summer in that position?
Yeah.
So, we have over the last 3 years, and I can check with classified HR to see if they've re-advertised that. Maybe they haven't in the last several months. But they've consistently advertised out and provided the substitute classified employee link. They have an open link for any, just as a substitute classified, because he would have to work as a substitute during that time.
No, but I'm just saying that I'm just wanting to make sure that our classified employees are aware that this is available.
I will go back to them tomorrow and I'll make sure that they resend that out, because I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, if we can, you know, and the other question I have is, do you know what the hourly, this might be an Amy question, what the hourly cost, what does this contract cost hourly?
I'd have to pull the contracts.
Okay.
We could put it.
Yeah, I put that in Friday
Yeah,
letter.
if you could put in the Friday
Yeah.
letter,
Yeah.
I'd be curious about how much that is, because if we're paying, you know, a lot of money, more than, you know, then that might be an incentive for.
I think there is an answer for that. For the summer school program, is it similar to the after-school program where the hourly rate can't be significantly higher than a regular employee's rate?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's
So
actually,
competitive.
there's actually like legislation on
Yeah.
writers and the guidelines. No, it's a good, no, it's a good connection because those were concerns that regular employees have that we're paying a contract
Right,
to come in, but there are some regulations.
So
that come
within
up.
the expanded learning opportunities program guidance is that we are not allowed to have an outside company pay their employees more than what we pay our employees. We have to be in alignment. Now, the contract may be above what you would see we pay hourly, because then we pay administrative fees to that, things like that.
Okay, so now that's where I have an issue, because if those administrative fees, if we were to take those and distribute them amongst our employees to give them a higher hourly rate, then we might get more employees applying for these jobs.
So I can comment on that.
Okay.
So, within the classified salary range, there are rules and it's ed code and it's also aligns with the Personnel Commission that you cannot move one classification up without moving everybody up. It has to be a relational type of move. So if we took after-school employees and moved them up to, obviously, a higher hourly rate, everybody would have to move with them. And so that's what's really kind of, limited us on those. So that's why we had this MOU this last couple of years where they actually increased their hours to 6 hours. I'm working with CSEA to hopefully renew that. I can't discuss that here right now, but we had that up through June 30th.
Yeah.
Right now that they have hours up to like 6 hours versus 3, 4, and 5 hours.
Yeah.
And that MOU had, encompassed instructional assistants for special ed, CNS instructional assistants, but specifically for the after school, it allowed us to increase their hours. And so that helped with actually recruiting.
Are those pension eligible positions when they're full-time?
Well, technically, I think the pension, they get it no matter what. It's the benefits.
There's two different types
jobs
of
are
pension, but
competitive
we're
as you
gonna
think
think
about
the Rs in first.
Yeah, so they're,
benefits, like someone coming through a contractor isn't gonna get a VUSD pension.
Right.
For
Exactly.
working in VUSD, but our employees do.
Right.
So
Right.
it's not dollars on the paycheck, but there's a
Other
long-term
employee
benefits.
But I think, Rachel, correct me if
That's
I'm
a good
wrong,
point.
where trustee
is a good
Morocco
point,
is
yeah.
going, the goal is for all of our ELOP programs to be inside employees.
100%.
That is our
Mhm.
goal, and we are slowly working toward that goal. And I mentioned earlier that we went from, when we had a conversation earlier, we went from 800 to now 2,700 students participating, and most of those students were trying to get our employees working
Right.
with them. So I just wanted to be clear that what you're asking for is exactly what our goal is.
Okay.
We just have to get there. It's just the expansion is happening really fast.
Okay.
and the consideration with the extra hours is that you have to provide enough hours, but not too much where there's no work.
Gotcha.
So something to do.
No, I got that.
Yep.
Okay.
But we hear you on it.
Thank you.
Is that all for being?
That's it. That was my
All
only.
right, so, and, I'm gonna go back to 15B. I make a motion, the non-measure LL contracts listing, we need to modify the Coran contract at the bottom of page 152 to read packing and moving services for Rancho Minerva and Beaumont for 130,000 instead of 65,000.
Second, or sorry, you go first.
So moved by myself, seconded by
Cipriano's.
trustee Vargas. Any further discussion on this? Okay, all in favor of approving 15B, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? 15B passes 5-0.
As
15C is the opposite. Go ahead, Amy.
So 15C is the opposite, where the Measure LL needs to be modified so that it just reflects Bobier for 165,000 instead of 130.
Not 165. 65.
65 instead of 130,000.
Okay,
Gotcha.
all right.
Sorry, what is it?
So
Getting
you
late.
said
My
one
clock's
hundred,
starting.
yeah, you said 165.
I move that we,
I have the wording here.
okay, go
Let
for
me
it.
do it. Just because I have the wording.
Go for it.
Okay. For 15C Measure LL contracts listing, we need to modify the Corvan contract on page 156 to read packing and moving services for Bobier for 65,000 instead of 130,000.
There we go.
Second.
So moved by myself, seconded by trustee Kelly. Any further discussion for 15C? All in favor of approving 15C, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, the motion carries 5-0. Next on the agenda is 16A, ratify and approve purchase orders.
May I make a motion that we ratify items approve 16C.
16A. 16A.
That too.
So moved by trustee Kelly, seconded by trustee Vargas to approve 16A. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving 16A, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? The measure passes 4-0 and 1 abstention. 16B, 2024 English Language Arts Middle School Adoption Recommendation for Approval.
I thought you were just here because you wanted to.
I just wanted to hang out with all of you. So I'll do a quick introduction. This is Vicki Curtis. She is our secondary coordinator that we brought on this year. She's doing amazing work. She's former teacher at Vista High School, so she's been with us for a very long time and very well respected.
My daughter.
And she's got Miss Smithfield's daughter. And then we have, of course, our executive director, Sandra Seha, who have both been working with our middle school teams to update our history, social science, and our English language arts curriculum. It is very outdated and we are ready to move forward on that. So they're going to bring forward the work that they did this year.
Awesome, thank you. So to give you a little bit of background, our current ELA curricular program was adopted in 2003, I believe, before the implementation of the Common Core standards. So it's highly outdated just because I think one of the middle school teachers said to me, it's a legal drinking age. I feel like it's go out and have a drink. Yeah, so it's old. The materials are falling apart. It's not linked to Common Core. So some rationale for why we need to replace it. We did collaborate with SDCOE's coordinator of ELA to make sure that we were following the procedures. Our timeline, we looked at the state approved curricular programs in the fall. Teachers narrowed those down to two, Amplify and Steady Sync. We built some background laid the groundwork for the pilot, November, December, and then in January, we piloted Amplify for 6 weeks. And then teachers piloted Steady Sync after that. They had a final selection recommendation for adoption in April, and we can go to the next one. They recommended moving forward with Amplify ELA. Some of the reasons why they wanted to move forward with that is because of they said that the texts were culturally relevant for our students. They were highly engaging. There were a lot of supports built in to the materials for our diverse learners, ELs, as well as students with disabilities. There were clear structures to support teaching routines, very user-friendly materials for both teachers and students. And one of the biggest benefits they said is that it was very challenging, but it was accessible with all the supports that were there. So I have a proposed 7-year ELA curricular adoption. You can see there, student consumables and digital licenses are about $624,000. Teacher additions are built into that, so there's no extra cost with that. Professional development, $28,200 for a total of $734,000 split into 2 equal payments in year 1 and year 2. And then years 3 through 7, there would be nothing due. And this is funded by S&C funds in strategy 4, action service 1, step 1, the upcoming blueprint.
That's the money question. This, my understanding, this comes out of S&C funds. I thought we had a textbook fund.
The lottery funds. I'm gonna have Amy help us with that question and why we're using S&C.
Yeah, really.
Versus
because
lottery
I
right now.
keep being told our reserves are so high because we have these adoptions.
So we actually have 3 ways to fund it: ESSER funds. If we have the ESSER funds available, we can use the ESSER before we touch the S&C. The lottery funds, we've outlined in the blueprint for the next 3 years on the ongoing cost of the adoptions that what we have currently. That leaves that textbook adoption that's currently in reserves, still not touched.
Okay, but when are we gonna touch it? Like, we're
So
using.
Amy,
other
explain
things
why you
that
held
can be
back on
used
that.
For other things for our students, and for all these years, we've been questioning that one line item about textbooks, and then, now you're like, oh, we're using S&C funds.
We can use those dollars. It takes board action to pull those dollars out of reserves. We just would lower the percentage of reserves. So that's an
But
option.
that's not my point. My point is, okay, first of all, since you've been here, and way before I got here, we always questioned the reserves and how they were used in this district, okay? The other thing we always questioned was the textbook line. And all the millions of dollars that every year we put in there, okay? So when I'm seeing this, money should come from the textbook line, not our S&C funds that are supposed to be used for other things. So why are we doing it this way?
So when we had that so I just want to be clear that we're talking about the same funds. You're talking about the funds we got from the property transfer that the board chose to put in.
Matt, I'm talking about in our line items, in our budget.
Actually, that's the same
I
place.
just want to make sure we're talking about the same money.
Well, the same place, those funds did get put into the textbook fund. Okay, so I
Along
think
with
there's
other money.
Okay, so
And
this,
it was questioned and we were, it's for textbooks. Well, here we are.
I am- I understand. So I just, again, just to be fair, let's make sure we're talking about the same ones. So we're talking about 2 types of money. Money that's specifically identified in the budget right now under textbooks, not the property transfer money. And the property transfer money, which ultimately the original conversation was to set it aside. We require board action to pull back in to use in the textbook fund, should we choose to put it there? I think that's the question.
No.
So there's 2 funding sources.
My understanding was that money it did go into the textbook fund. It didn't go into the reserves.
It's committed funds are in the ending fund balance. The board took action to create those funds that are part of the ending fund balance, and then it takes board action to pull them out. Right now, we've developed a plan that utilizes S&C and lottery dollars over the next 3 years. The board can direct us and take action, and then we can change the blueprint. But right now, because we can't on our own take action on those committed dollars, because the board has taken action to commit. So we can't touch them until the board says, do not touch S&C and lottery, and then I can bring that forward and the board can vote to take those out of the ending fund balance and to use at this time. Right now, they're there, set aside, committed until the board directs us.
And what are they committed for?
Textbooks. But I
Well,
can't-
explain why it's important to have it in the ending fund balance in order for us to have our NYP.
Before we decided to use S&C.
So explain them why we would want, what your rationale is for leaving it there for now, so we can build our budget.
So not quite understanding where you want me to go with that one. The way that we built the budget was to use the current funds because that was how we built the blueprint. We didn't build a plan to use those committed funds because we hadn't taken action to the board. If the board would like to give direction to take those out of the ending fund balance, we can do that at the next meeting and then swap out the funding source.
What are the S&C funds used for?
Improved, increased services and outcomes for students.
For LCAP.
Yeah.
And our LCAP, we use S&C funds. We should be buying textbooks when we have all these millions of dollars sitting around for
I agree.
textbooks.
I
I'm
actually
sorry.
agree.
This,
I
I feel like this is like a big bamboozle. Oh, maybe they won't notice.
Well, it takes board action to take those committed funds out, so I can bring back a resolution to use those dollars. Right now, we use the
Can't we just take a
S&C.
motion now?
It has to be agendized. For committed funds, that's the requirement for those, because the intent of doing committed ensures that the staff doesn't use those dollars for anything else until the board votes on a resolution to take them out of the ending. They're different than just having money sitting in the reserves. When they're committed,
It takes board action to put it in and board action to take it out.
So, then my question would be for tonight, are we saying that we will, are you asking to approve this and then at the next board meeting, we will just shuffle the money back to S and C, or how, what is the deal? Or we're just gonna hold off on approving all these textbooks until next month?
Well, first of all, I haven't heard from the other trustees on that. Like,
It's a clarifying question.
right. So right now, this is on the agenda, so it has to either be voted on or it may die, right? But before we say what we would do instead,
But in order to make an informed decision, we should have this information to understand. I mean, for me anyway, I need to make an informed decision, and so I need clarification on this. Is, what are they asking us to do? What are our options? Let me put it that way.
So we're asking you to approve adopting the new curriculum. We put a funding source to it because we're building the blueprint right now. We know we need to have money to actually buy these materials, but really all we're asking for is, do you approve us moving forward with adopting these materials? And then we can have a conversation about what funding.
you have lottery, you have ESSER.
We're really just asking, do you approve us moving forward with buying these textbooks through the process that was used to adopt the textbook?
With all due respect, I've been burned on this before. Okay, so understanding that this is, I'm gonna talk, the whole thing about moving, Beaubier students to the Beaumont campus. I thought that was gonna come back and we are gonna vote on that later, and that never did. So I'm a little shy, so with all due respect, just saying, I've been burned.
I have a question. Sorry, unrelated. But on the slide with the fiscal impact, I don't understand how the total of 734,000 is reached, because adding up what's listed for years 1 and 7 and the professional development and the digital licenses is actually about $82,000 less.
Shipping and tax.
Shipping and tax, okay.
Yeah, I didn't include it in here, but.
Thank you. I was like, these numbers don't.
Yeah.
So what are the pros and cons of funding this manner instead of with the manner from the textbook savings account, for lack of a better word? What are the pros and cons, Amy, of funding it with S&C?
So we could use S&C, ESSER, or lottery. S&C ESSER expires first, so if there's things that we could move from S&C to ESSER to free up the ESSER dollars to use for textbooks. Because ideally you want to use them first. S&C do not have an expiration, which is why we have that 12 million carryover. The disadvantage of using S&C, obviously, you're setting it aside for textbooks instead of other services, to Rosemary's point. Taking them out of the ending fund balance. The only disadvantage is just that currently is calculated as the total percentage of our ending fund balance on the unrestricted side compared to total general fund. So it's counting as part of that 3% minimum. And so when you use those dollars, it just reduces the ending fund balance, and then it just makes your percent reserves go down because it's just a total calculation of your total general fund. And then down the road, if there's say in 26, 27, when we're, even more so out of funds and there's a textbook need, we wouldn't be able to utilize those dollars because we would have to then take S&C at that point and lottery and shuffle things around to free up dollars at that point.
Do we have a motion to approve?
My comments before I make a motion, I approve getting the curriculum to our teachers with so that's needed. If we want to change the funding source, let's bring that back at a future agenda item or when we do the budget approval. But at this time, I make a motion to approve item 16B.
I'll second. Moved by trustee Vargas, seconded by trustee Kelly. Any further discussion?
Just that I would prefer to approve it all in one fell swoop and have it clean.
All right, I want to take a vote. Unless there's any further discussion.
Well, I think we are voting clean, Rena. We're voting like to adopt or not adopt. And then the funding source is another conversation that we'll have with the budget conversation.
And that will just be a majority vote, so.
So this is yes, no on the books adopting.
I just, like I said, I've been burned before, so I'm a little shy about like, okay, I understand and I agree, like, I agree with, let's adopt the curriculum, I'm great with that. But I'm nervous that this funding source is not gonna be brought back. That's, what guarantees do we have?
I will put it in writing to have it on the agenda next month. Okay?
All right, and I will, vote yes, if that's the case, if, as long as I'm guaranteed it's gonna be on the agenda next month.
All right, I appreciate the time that pilot teachers took to pilot this curriculum. It's a lot of work to do that. And there is a big group, almost 15, 20. So I will be voting yes for this. All in favor of approving 16C,
B.
16B, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. All right, next is 16C, the 2024 Social Studies Middle School Adoption Recommendation for approval.
So, similar situation with history, they were adopted in 2006, so are also very outdated. They were not aligned to the Common Core literacy standards, history, social. Again, we worked with the San Diego County Office of Ed, and the history lead was contacted to facilitate the process. We have a similar timeline. This timeline was started last spring, May of 2023, when an administrator on special assignments, he started the adoption process back in the spring. I picked it up in August, when teachers narrowed down their choices to 2 publishers, National Geographic and Discovery. We built some, did some groundwork for the pilot in September and October. We piloted National Geographic for 6 weeks, and that looks like a really long timeline, but you have Thanksgiving break and winter break, and the extension into January. So it was a 6-week pilot for Nat Geo, and then the same length of time for Discovery, the very end of January through February into just the first couple days of March. And then they recommended for adoption in March of 2024. And they recommended that we move forward with Discovery education. They said that it had very rich content that went deep than just the surface level of some of the other materials they looked at. There was support for our diverse learners again. A big plus for this is that there's a Spanish edition available for our DLI students. It was user-friendly, linked to the standards, and again, there was clear structures to support routines for learning. So we have a proposed 7-year adoption. Site licenses for 7 years, including the teacher's edition at $96,000, the digital textbook, $280,000, student print textbooks in English and Spanish for grade 6 DLI. Professional development is included at no charge. You see again, 2 years of payments for a total of $507,000. Again, the math probably doesn't add up exactly because shipping and tax. And one note that I will make is that we will bring forward to the next meeting Spanish textbooks for 7th and 8th grade too. So as we roll up DLI, that didn't get into the slides in time, but we do have that from the publisher ready to go for next month.
When you did that, and I've said this, were there DLI teachers that were able to pilot that? We don't have any right now, so how did we decide it was okay in Spanish?
I communicated with the multilingual department and shared the materials with him, and he shared it with his team.
Okay.
We did have, now there, because DLI is only through fifth grade, but
Right, so that's what I'm saying. We don't have them in middle school, but we're buying books without any input of the teachers that will actually be involved with it. And we probably need to just make sure once they get it, it has what they need, and if not, we're gonna have to fill in the hole.
Yeah, and we just, I know that one of the teachers was just identified, so we can actually ask that person to look at the curriculum now too.
Okay, and then if we have to fill in the
Yeah.
holes for them and get them stuff, we need to.
Absolutely. Yep.
And so next steps would be the ordering of materials, teacher training, offered in the summer and then in the fall as well, and then ongoing, training and resources throughout the year. And then again, thanking, the pilot team. There were a lot of people involved in this one too, and it was a lot of work. Some of them piloted both ELA and social studies because they're bored. So just lots of kudos to the teachers that were involved in the pilot.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
I meant to ask it on the previous one, but it came back again exactly the same way. 7 years. Is that, why that timeline? Is that just, yeah.
That is the state timeline for when curriculum adoption normally goes through a cycle. So you normally
Not
adopt,
20
not,
years?
not for 20. It's
Wow.
normally a 7-year cycle. And so the state will actually put out another list of vetted publishers and things like
And
that.
at that point, or somewhere before the end of the 7 years, we would re-engage in a pilot, or would we, if we're happy with these providers, we would continue with them? And would there be some fiscal savings if we were just, getting an update versus?
So this is the fun thing publishers do. Yeah, so sometimes at the end of a 7-year cycle, they no longer have those available anymore.
Yeah.
So the question would come 7 years from now as to whether or not we could buy another set. Because normally by then they have their new stuff out.
Mhm.
We gotta make the money.
Well, and there's some insight as to why the current stuff was around for so long, right? Because we were probably in some fiscal hardship and we couldn't go at that juncture. Yeah.
District.
All right, thanks. I appreciate your presentation and all that work. All right. Do we have an action item? I mean,
We need to
Yeah.
vote on this. We need to vote on this one too.
Yeah.
We adopt this one.
Started walking away. I make a motion to approve item 16C, adoption of the new social studies middle school curriculum.
Second. Moved by trustee Kelly, seconded by myself. Any further discussion on 16C, the social studies adoption? Seeing none, all in favor of approving 16C, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries 5-0. Next is 16D.
Thank you.
Approve, thank you, the memorandum of understanding by and between the Vista Unified School District and the California School Employees Association, and it's chapter 389 regarding school consolidation.
So with the school consolidation with Rancho Minerva and Beaumont, the district met with CSEA to discuss the impacts and effects on employees. So this MOU outlines what those would be and what the district agrees to do. These were all things that we had already worked on and were doing. I did want to highlight item 1 and 4. Item 1 just means that we did not want to, we wanted classified employees to apply for promotions and be able to move up and have a site for the next year, but we held them back at either Rancho Minerva or Beaumont, so we did not deplete that site. They still received the promotion and then they start July 1, and then we provided subs or coverage at the other site. So that was an important different item that's not in a contract. And then number 4, we created with vacancies, a plan to, we've been placing employees with vacancies, but again, they have not left the school site. So as of July 1, they will make that shift. So we've been trying to work with both sites and the employees have been very supportive of that. So this is just outlines typical impacts that our classified employees will have.
I move that we approve item 16D.
Second.
Moved by trustee Morocco, seconded by trustee Kelly. Any further discussion on 16D? Seeing none, all in favor of approving 16D, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries 5-0. And then last on the 16 on discussion and action items is 16E, approve the guaranteed maximum price GMP for phase 1 of the Bobier Elementary School reconstruction project.
Thank you very much, Madam President. This is a follow-up to the presentation earlier today. We have split the guaranteed maximum price for this process into 2 segments, GMP 1, GMP 2. As opposed to other projects, what affords us this opportunity is the scale of the project and that the demolition phase is not required to go through Division of State Architects state level approval. We're able to carry that out as we're finishing up those items. So this is first of 2 items that is coming to you on this site. We have people with us, but if there are any specific questions this evening, as mentioned before, we have John Atherton from Menards. I want to thank John and his team. I've been asked before what level of detail we expect on this item. If you go through your board pack, you will see there are 43 pages of detailed Gantt charts of dates and times to inspect construction. That is the level of detail that we expect on a project of this nature that lays out what we should expect when. This is what we've been telling the board we wish to see. So we thank John and his team for that. Steve Prince and his team are here for additional questions on those matters. And of course, Grace and Chris are here should there be questions on that
Can you walk us through those 43
matter. John, by the way, who has a fear of.
You probably enjoy it. You probably enjoy it.
Thinks this is humorous.
John, does the PLA fall in this phase 1? I know you got the construction of.
Yeah, the whole, all of it.
Got it.
And you will even see, on the GMP page itself, you will see that there are marks for PLA labor compliance as part of this.
I move that we approve the GMP for Bobier.
Moved by trustee Morocco, seconded by trustee Vargas to approve the guaranteed maximum price GMP for phase 1 of the Bobier Elementary School reconstruction project. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I want to be there with the bulldozer. So let me know
Yes,
that
we
day.
all do.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I have to say,
It's a big moment.
GMP for Bovier. Never mind, no, working if I forgot it.
But this is your project log, man.
No, this is my baby, I know it
Yeah,
is, no, it was something I forget. You know?
All right, all in favor of approving 16E, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstention?
I remember, real quick comment. We had a bid day, I don't know, we didn't have a meeting since then, but we had a bid day, thanks to all these wonderful people over at Morris Vance. You were asking about the PLA. It was so my first time, so it was all a learning experience for me, but it was pretty impressive, all the people that showed up. PLA came up, they explained it, GAFCON was there, explained it to everybody, they did a great job and lots of interest, right? We're on the right path.
Do we need to take another vote?
No,
Okay.
no, that was just the.
Okay, all right, so the measure passes 5-0. 16E, thank you, sir. And then there's nothing for 17. On 18, a board request from Rosemary Smithfield to trustee Smithfield to put a funding source for middle school English and social studies adoption on the next agenda item.
And I gave her the wrong information. It's actually board bylaw 9322.
I just put the board on there. just to
Yeah, no,
say that.
I gave her the wrong information, so that was that. It's as per board bylaw 9322. She's giving you the written reply.
It's on the agenda.
Okay.
Well, it will be on the agenda.
Okay.
That's why I stated it. Any other further discussion? All right,
Sign up for under your celebrations, because it's updating the calendar, but thank you for sending those. It's helpful to make sure we don't get lost and, keep up with our sketches.
all right. Seeing no further discussions or requests, I adjourn this